Okay, the Finance Committee will come to order for Wednesday, March 17th at 7:15 p.m. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dave, present the colors.
Okay, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Okay, we're having a joint hearing tonight with Intergovernmental Relations. Arvin, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
All right, we're gonna take a roll call. So why don't you take a roll call first on your committee?
Sure. Intergovernmental Relations roll call to establish a quorum. We have Stephen Phillips, Jeffrey Blackard,
Here.
Harvey Spack, Tim Howe,
Here.
Janet Schneider, Lindsay Kreckler, present, Frank Lyons.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, Finance Committee roll call. Gilda, you're here, right? Okay.
I'm here, yeah.
Ed's here. Bob.
Here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dave.
Here.
Diane.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Ben.
Present.
Yes.
Here.
John Anzavino.
Here.
Joel.
Here.
D. John Rock. Not right now.
John Rock
Marty.
just showed up.
Okay, we'll get back to him. Marty.
Here.
Okay. Elliot.
I'm here.
Vaughn's here.
Here.
And Enoch.
Here.
All right. And we'll come back to D. John Rock. Are you hooked up? Hello, John.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We have everybody tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Fitzgerald had his hand up a minute ago. I don't know if you saw him a minute ago. I think he had an actual hand up too, if I can find him on the screen here.
Do you have a question or what's
No, he had his hand up, but I'm guessing that he had a question.
we got 15 tonight. Well, as soon as we
He's
open the
muted.
public hearing, he
Oh,
can ask
he's
the
muted.
Can you hear me
question.
now? Hello? Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Mr. Chairman, I asked if I could have 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes time right now in front of the Finance Committee, just for clarification. I happened to watch this evening.
Hold on. Let us open the public hearing and then
Okay, go right
we can
ahead.
have a few minutes. Okay, Ardvarn, why don't you open your motion to open your public hearing?
I have a motion to open public hearing from the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. So moved.
Second.
All right, so,
And just take a quick vote.
Stephen Phillips, Jeffrey Blackard,
Yes.
Harvey Spack, Timothy Howe,
Yes.
Argavon, yes. Janice Schneider, Lindsay Kreckler,
Yes.
Frank Lyons.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, and the Finance Committee need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved?
Second,
Okay, Ed votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
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 John Anzavino?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
yes.
And Enoch?
Yes.
All right, we are open.
All right,
Okay,
Eddie,
Mr. Fitz-
Eddie, just a reminder to people, because there are so many on, that if you're not speaking, if you do mute yourself, it does cut back on the feedback and everything.
All right, if everybody could try to do that, that'd be fantastic. Okay, Mr. Fitzgerald, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Real quickly, I was able to watch this evening prior to coming in here, your March 4th meeting, Finance Committee meeting, and discussion about the Rules Committee of the putting the date from the 3rd of May, first Monday to the 3rd Monday. Just to clarify this, please, if I could, there was no one from the Finance Committee that ever approached Dick Fitzgerald to tell Dick Fitzgerald that they should change the date of the start of town meeting. That was my suggestion. I did have a discussion with a member, that's it, asked if the purpose of this was to try and extend the Finance Committee's hearing process. It was done last year, to do it again this year. There was a member of Finance Committee that I saw on the 4th, and the lady did stress that maybe it would be something you could do. At no time did the Rules Committee or did Dick Fitzgerald hold on to this discussion or bring this forward to go over the heads of anyone from the Finance Committee. It was my suggestion. I thought it would be good for the Finance Committee. You worked tireless hours. You put a lot of time into it. Maybe you were going to get into some articles that would need some long evenings and discussions. That's the only thing that I did this for. I did not do anything to go over your heads. And I did not, when I presented this to the Rules Committee, it was put in as an addendum to a motion to go virtual. It was withdrawn, and a separate motion was made to make this to go a motion to open town meeting on the 3rd Monday in May. The second reason that this was brought forward was because it would give IT some time to work with new members who would be elected in April, probably not, and certainly not, IT users all the time, and to get them accustomed to what was going to be used by Trish and by IT, whether it was going to be Zoom or Google, whatever it might be, whether it was going to be a meeting or it's going to be something else. I don't know the terminology, but that's the only reason it was brought forward, okay? And in no way did Dick Fitzgerald want to go out and bring something over the head of the Finance Committee. My idea, thought I was helping, got the message when I watched the March 4th meeting, and we will have it on the 3rd. The Rules Committee, we're meeting now every 2 weeks, which is excellent. And we're determining how this town meeting can be presented in a strong, solid format. Little discussion prior to the meeting opening, and how to navigate through the different programs and everything. I think, you know, in the back of my head, I'm looking at the 17th. That probably was pretty good, because I think IT needs to help a lot of people, myself included. There will be training sessions. I'll let the moderator touch base on that, but there are going to be training sessions from the IT department. So just to clarify it, nobody from Finance Committee called Dick Fitzgerald and asked them to extend this to the 17th. I hope that's clear enough. That was my idea. And it was there to help the people, the new people, navigate through their systems. Sorry to take any more than 2 minutes. Hope that clarifies things. I thank you for all your hard work, and I wish you the very best.
Appreciate the points of clarification. Thank you very much.
Yep, good meeting.
Okay, let's see, where are we? We are open. Public meeting is open. So now we will go to our first article. Mr. McCrisky, are you present?
I am present.
Okay, we'll do your article first, so you can go home. Article 36, restoration of the antique Stoughton Fire Engine 2. I believe it's around $185,000, is that correct? And it's going to be paid for by CPC funding for cash.
Yes.
Can you give us an overview, please?
I could give you much more than an overview. I think I sent out a 21-page document. I hope you all got to see that. Did everybody get that?
Yeah, it came over.
Okay, all right, so that's, the history of the truck. And we've had the truck now since 2004, and a lot of people don't know the background, how we got it. Years ago, I want to say it was probably around 2002, we had the rededication for Pye Park at the intersection of Central and Canton Street, which is named for former Chief Fred Pye. And Chief Pye is the gentleman sitting in the passenger seat on the antique fire truck that was on the front of the document that I had sent out to everyone. And the current owner of the truck, well, let me say, we had the dedication. And, when you've been around the town a long time, you think you know things. And, I sure as heck thought I knew a lot more than I did, obviously. When we had the dedication, I saw the antique fire truck that was parked right behind the stone that has Chief Pye's name and his history on it. And I saw the truck, I see the name Stoughton on the hood. I said, wow, look at that. Somebody's got an old truck and they put the name Stoughton on the hood. And then I met who became a longtime friend of mine, was Bill Donovan, who was the current owner of the truck at the time. And we started talking about it. And I said, geez, Bill, I said, if the truck ever is for sale, I'd love to have the right of first refusal and have it come back to Stoughton, because I think that would be a great thing for the town. And Bill said if he ever gets rid of the truck, he always wanted it to come back to Stoughton. And that is a word that he kept. So around the late 2003 area, he had called me up. His health had been failing, and he was having a hard time driving the truck, because I've been in the trucking industry my whole life, and Mr. Carrara will attest to this. When this truck was back when they didn't have power steering, and in all my years of trucking, this truck is the toughest truck that I've ever had to steer in my life. So I could understand what he was saying. With his failing health, he was just having a hard time moving the truck around. So I started helping him out, volunteering. I was doing events with the truck and had it around Stoughton as well. For a brief time, he had a hard time housing the vehicle. It was actually housed at my uncle's garage that used to be located at 11 Drake Avenue. For those of you who remember my Uncle Ken, we had an extra garage out back, and Bill stored it out there for a little while. And then he just came to me one time and he said, Joe, it's time. He says, it's time to get to have the truck go back to Stoughton where it belongs. And he gave me the price, and at the time I thought was steep, but I went out on a fundraising effort. And at the time I had to sell the Historical Society. There were some people that were a little less enthusiastic, we'll say. And I made a commitment to them in 2003. I said, I will run this. I will raise the money. It will not cost the Historical Society a penny out of their budget as long as I'm alive, even if I have to take out a loan and find a way to pay it back. And I'm proud to say that I've kept that. This truck has never cost the Historical Society out of their budget a penny. I went on a fundraising tour. I have people that will when we need something, and it's happened. The truck has broken down in the past where we needed to raise a little money, and people will make a donation to the fire truck fund. So the truck is a 1928 Maxim. It was built in Middleborough, Massachusetts. It was ordered in May of 1927, and we received the truck just around the beginning of April of 1928. And the truck was purchased by town meeting in 1927 for $2,750. And the idea with the Maxim trucks, Carlton Maxim was the founder of Maxim Trucks. He was a firefighter in the town of Middleborough, and they were buying trucks that really weren't equipped the best way. And he made a comment that he could build a better fire truck than what they're buying. And Middleborough Fire Chief said, build one, we'll buy it. And he did. And lo and behold, for years, Maxim was known because they were customizable to what the chief wanted. A different pump, a different engine, the way that the pump was designed and set. And there was a lot of extras you could get to suit the needs of the community. So we got the truck back. I went out, I raised the money, and I was lucky enough to be able to raise more than the purchase price when we had a donor come to Stoughton, and he said, well, I asked him for a donation thinking that he would cap off what we had done. And he says, well, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm looking for $6,000. I said, so whatever you can do would be greatly appreciated. So a couple days later, after he thought about it, he came back and he said, well, this is what I'm going to do. He says, you're going to take the just under $9,000 I had raised. I said, you're going to take that $9,000, you're going to put it into a maintenance account, and I'm going to buy the truck for the town of Stoughton, which he did. He cut a check for the full purchase price for the fire truck. So that $9,000 that we had in 2004, at this time right now, there's about $1,200 left in that. We will be going through for another fundraiser, for the upkeep budget. But this was one that I was invited by a member of the CPC. He said, I think the time is right that we need to ask for the fire truck to be refurbished. So we're going to be doing a full restoration on the truck, which will make it basically as it looked when it was brand new. Right now, the truck has an older restoration that was done right around the 70s. The lettering on it is incorrect. The mechanics of it, it's a 1928 truck. The engine needs to be rebuilt. The transmission needs to be rebuilt. The pump doesn't work right now, but it will with just having it rehabbed because the internal components of the pump are not as expensive to fix. So what we'll be doing, a lot of the truck, all the extras will say, all the equipment on the truck is period correct. The ladders we got from the Brockton Fire Museum, I purchased them and I restored those with the help of the Southeastern Regional School. They did a lot of the restoration. I did the finishing on them. So we have everything there. There'll be a couple components that we need to purchase as well as part of the restoration. But when this truck comes back, it will be in the condition that it'll live for another 100 years. So the truck has been a great ambassador of Stoughton. We've since added, we have on the passenger side of the vehicle, we have 2 helmets, one in memory of Victor Melendi, and the other one is for Mr. Kelleher, who was Stoughton's first firefighter lost in the line of duty. And we have helmets that have been mounted to the truck. We had a ceremony with Mrs. Kelleher, who placed the helmet on the truck, and Mrs. Melendi, who placed Victor's helmet on the truck. So that truck has gone around. It's a goodwill ambassador to Stoughton. And we've taken it to many events, shows. It is listed on the state's website for the arts. I forget the name of it. When there's a movie out, that if they need old vehicles, there is a state agency, and that's our truck is listed on that. Trying to get it into a movie someday would be nice. But we have had this truck out to everybody. COVID was different. COVID really, of all the challenges we hit in Stoughton, we didn't have a parade. We didn't have any of our fireworks, our Kids Day. But the only thing that was out going around was Engine 2. Engine 2 went out, and my girlfriend and I took it out for 7.5 hours on the 4th of July. And we went down neighborhood roads. And people basically contacted me on Facebook and gave me, a list. I wish I could have got to everybody, but we had probably 40 people that wanted the truck to come down to their street. We went down, and Mr. Guglia, the principal of the middle school, went to his home, didn't know it was him, but we just had a request. So this, unlike anything you see in the Historical Society, you go into the Historical Society, you go to a museum or to an art exhibit to see things that are historical. The beauty of this truck is it goes out to the people. So COVID, 7 hours we rode around the streets of Stoughton, ringing the bell, letting kids climb up and adults as well, because somebody said it at the CPC meeting, no matter how old you get, everybody loves a fire truck. And I never heard that before, and I couldn't agree with it more though, because when adults get up on this, it seems like they push their kids out of the way to use the hand crank siren. So it's a beautiful ambassador of Stoughton. It goes out, we go to events. It still is in that condition where everywhere I go, I have to have a chase vehicle. So when we break down, there's somebody to run if we need something.
Yep.
And the longest period that the truck has been down was previous to last year, that we had a major component on the drive shaft break and into a couple pieces. And with a 1928 truck, you just don't go to the auto parts store and say, I need another one. It took us almost 4 years to find it, but we did, because I wanted to stay committed to having the truck be 100% authentic. There's not an aftermarket part on that truck. Everything that's on that truck mechanically was built in 1927 and 1928 when we got it. So we're keeping it original. I've gone to fire apparatus shows with it. And again, it's nice to have Stoughton represented. There's a lot of communities. And the truck wins trophies just for being authentic, just for being something that, you know, is all the original equipment. There's not an aftermarket. Sometimes when the engines blow up on these trucks, people will put a Chevy engine in it that's, you know, only built maybe in 1971. You know, they have a different drive shaft system and all that. So our truck is very unique that it's 100% authentic. But everything does.
Okay, great.
So we've done a good job keeping it up to this point. Again, but it's old. It's a 1928. And I've been honored to get the vote of the CPC, unanimous vote, as well as a historical commission, unanimous vote, and the board of directors of the Stoughton Historical Society with a vote as well. We will be going to get a document we're putting together, which is a right of first refusal that the town of Stoughton will hold. Whereas if at any time the Historical Society, you know, and I'll tell you, it'll be way after I'm dead, if the Historical Society ever decided that they couldn't keep it or didn't want it anymore, the town of Stoughton would get the truck for $1. All right, we want to make sure that it stays in Stoughton. It's not going anywhere. And it'll continue. My goal would be to have this truck 100 years down the line, that this truck will be entertaining people and serve as, you know, again, a goodwill ambassador, you know, for the town of Stoughton. So that's a little bit of what we're doing. I'd be more than glad to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay, let me check with, is anybody from CPC committee here?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Mark Semanian, Treasurer of the CPC, is here.
Anything you want to add about your discussions or vote or anything to that nature?
No, we, as Joe said, on January 27th of 2021, the CPC met early to avoid the closing of the warrant and voted unanimously to support this article as a cash expenditure. And we're very fortunate to have Joe bring this forward. I worked with him closely on this, and I'm excited about this project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Aghavan, could you ask anybody on your committee if they have any questions?
Sure thing. Does anyone from IGR have questions in regards to this article?
Yes, Tim Howe, precinct 4. I had a question. Joe, does this truck carry any water, or is it just pump? Does it carry its own water?
It does. It has a small tank. It's only just to prime the pump. These trucks were basically, when they were designed, Tim, they weren't like the trucks are now where they get started and they have a little water to get it going. These were basically pumps on wheels is what they were. They, you know, it was the end of the hand pump and the steamers, and these were just a pump on wheels. So there's a very small, I believe the tank is about 150 gallons, and you need that to prime the pump, and then you would run the lines right into it from the fire hydrant. So we will, what my goal is, Tim, when the restoration's done with your support and town meeting support, is to basically have an event where we would go, and when the truck was brought into Stoughton in 1928, they had an insurance company come in and they have to certify the pump test. And they did that at Ames Pond, and I know right where the location is. And when we have the truck back, I want to have another event when we engage the pump in the town of Stoughton on the same spot that it was in 1928. You know, I think it'd be great. So it does. These trucks are old. They're not built like the new trucks are now. There's actually no front brakes in this truck. There never was when it was made. There's just rear. So if you had a tank on there with any kind of water weight, you'd never be able to stop the truck. You know, but so that answers your question.
West Coast rig.
What's that?
A West Coast rig.
Oh, but I'll tell you. Thank God it's got great vacuum brakes, but you know it's not something in today's world. Believe me, I'm a defensive driver. You have to be looking 2 miles ahead of you. The way people drive now, they pull right out in front of you, and that's the beauty of the truck. The top end of the truck is only 40 miles an hour, and it's not even healthy to drive it like that. You know, so the average speed with this truck when you're around town is 25 to 30. I'm down to a knack of riding on the edge of the road and waving people around me.
Thank you.
Does anyone else from IGR have any questions? No?
Okay, I guess you guys are good. Okay. Does anybody have the finance committee have any questions about the fire truck?
Mr. Chairman, Scott Carrara has his hand up, Dave Lurie has his hand up, and John Enzavino has his hand up, so you can decide who goes first.
Oh, boy. Well, we'll start with Scott and then whatever the other order was.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not as much questions to Joe. It's more statements to his goodwill that he's done. He's put a lot of time into it. I know that for sure. And like I said before, we're kind of like the envy of the South Shore. That somebody did say to me, "Geez, you guys got that old fire truck." And if you read the paper the other day, the Strand Theater, they just were able to secure their truck, which is the same age as Joe's truck, and they're excited too, and they're getting theirs all done read over. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm a fire truck guy. I like fire trucks, and this truck is neat. It really is, and it's the history, and then to see like a sister truck that's in the next town that was fighting a fire where it's sad to say a lot of people lost their lives. It's just you know, I'm glad we have the chance to do something for the town. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Scott. And just one point too is these trucks now, very few are in their communities, owned by their communities. This one here, a 1928 Maxim, when it's restored, will be the best of any of them. The only other one that I'd see that would ever be close to what we're going to do with this truck is in New Hampshire. And that one is, again, a little bit of an older restoration. But I'll tell you, when you see this truck, you're going to be proud of your vote. I promise you that.
All right.
Dave was up first.
Dave? Okay, Dave, you're up.
Oh, thank you. Threw you in. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm very excited about this project as well. I didn't grow up, being enthusiastic, about the fire engine thing. When I grew up, it was all about the muscle cars and that kind of era. And then, but when my kids were coming up in Stoughton, they loved the display of all the engines and being able to crawl all over the cab and watch them come through on the parades. It was always like a big thrill. And it almost became like something that I became excited with them to see the fire engines in town and stuff. So I was wondering about the nostalgia of the fire engine on Freeman Street. Is there any value to having the engine eventually stored almost like a museum on Freeman Street, or if nothing else, have it become like an annual event where people get to take pictures of the engine? Where I assume Freeman Street was where it was housed back in the day, right? I'm assuming that.
Yes, there's on the document that I had sent out, there's a picture of it right in front of Bay 1 on Freeman Street.
Yep.
And several years back, Captain O'Donnell, before he retired, we had a little event up there, and we staged the truck right back in its original position when it was taken. I mean, almost to a measurement. We looked at the picture and moved the truck, and looked at the picture, and so we did that, and we staged it. What I've done over the years, we just took delivery recently of a new engine 2. I have a picture with the antique engine 2 with the last 4 engine 2s, and I'm going to keep that going as well. Kids, I think for any of the old townies that are left on there, I think I'm the new Chet Koheno, because I have staged more families for a family photo on this truck than I could care to think about. And 1,000 kids wouldn't surprise me at all, and I think it would be a low amount, because the whole idea, in my opinion, is, some people get these trucks and they do the restorations and then they rope them off and nobody gets to sit on it. And they say, oh, they might scratch it. Well, the whole idea is to let people relive history. There's a lot of men, and I say men only, no disrespect intended, but there were no women on the fire department then. And then there's this truck honors their memory. It's the people that made Stoughton what it is today. It's made up by individuals. It's all the people, the volunteers. A lot of firemen in those days were volunteers. A lot of them were called. So things have changed a lot. And to me, it's just, I think it says a lot about a community when we can honor the past, and the people that made the town the great things. As we see our veterans, we have, veteran signs, and we've done dedications for people. And this truck is a piece of living history, and I put that on the document as well. That's what it is.
Well,
And
thank you.
available
Yeah,
to everybody.
yeah, thank you for giving us something that we could smile about for a change and be excited and bring something positive to the town. It's long overdue, and I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, John, you're up.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, first, it's nice to see something like this can be restored and used, and I think people do take pride in it when they see it out there and so forth. And unfortunately, yes, many times it was in the parade and it broke down, had to go over to the side, get out of the way, and it would be nice to see it finish the parades too.
Three times, John. It only happened 3 times. We haven't had a breakdown on the parade for a while. Knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly, right. But no, I think it's great, and it's something now. We have the funds with the CPC, and it's something that, paying cash, it gets something done. It's something I think the town can take pride in. And I do have 2 questions.
Yes.
You said the Historical Society actually owns it, correct?
Yes.
So, does this vehicle get insured?
Yes, it's insured. It's fully insured.
Okay, and I assume that'll. I'm assuming that's going to be increasing a little bit once it gets fully restored too. But
it will. You'd be surprised the value of them, because they're so irreplaceable that there's, they pick a number based on what they think they could repair it for. Because 9 out of 10 times, John, God forbid something happened where somebody smashed into it, it's irreplaceable. You're not going to be able to. So they're going to pay out. The insurance company is going to pay out what it's worth now.
All right. Well, that's what I was wondering. How they look at it.
Yeah.
Is that on the town insurance, or is that something?
No, it's not. No,
the Historical Society picks that up.
Yeah, the insurance, yes, I take care of all that. It's insured to the insurance, from Safety Insurance for the Historical Society. This has nothing to do with the town, but again, where CPC funds are being used,
sure,
that's where we're making sure that we cover everything, and we're putting back the disclaimer, which gives the town the right of first refusal for $1.
Yep,
So,
I was glad to hear that.
Yeah, something happens, God forbid, that the Historical Society, which I hope never happens, ceases to exist, or the people don't want it anymore, it'll be going to the town of Stoughton.
All right, and I know it had been kept over in the armory. Is it still stored over there? Or?
No, it's not. It wasn't really working over there. It's in Avon now.
Okay.
And the idea of having it at Freeman Street later on, after things change, I mean, I'd love to see it be back in Stoughton.
Yeah.
Although it's not a deficit, because where it's insured, it's registered, it's able to get out. I mean, I bring it out. If people want to see it, I've gone where I've parked it on the lawn at the Historical Society a couple of times, and that's where I spend time waxing it, and people see it and they stop. I've been at the train station, the same thing. So, it gets out there. It's in Avon, in an antique garage, and it's climate controlled. It's got a beautiful little spot. It'll probably fight me when we go to leave someday. It's a nice location.
All right, yeah, no, I was just curious where it was, and I know for the life of me, I can't remember where it was, and I was driving quite a while ago now, and there was an old truck, and it was actually like up on a ramp, and they were displaying it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it looked like it was a permanent, fixture for display only,
Yeah, the Stone Forge, is that where you saw it?
Huh?
The Stone Forge, did you see it down there?
I honestly don't remember where I saw it. It could be, but I just remember going by it saying, geez, we got a truck like that, but at least we don't, So I'm glad to see, you're looking to get it restored and actually have it out there and being active in the town functions and so forth. So I wish you luck with it, and I'm certainly going to be in favor of this particular article. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anybody else in the Finance Committee have a question?
I do, Ed. Well, more comment as well. I was going to ask Mr. McCristy, through you, Mr. Chairman, where it was going to be housed, or if it could be on display somewhere in Stoughton Center so people could see it. That's my first question. And my second question is, will it be restored in time for our 300th birthday?
Yes, that is my hope.
Excellent.
That is my hope. This could, depending on how it goes, and I did speak with the restorer. I spent about an hour on my back under the truck on a creeper taking pictures, and he feels that this will be a shorter process than some, because there's not a lot of reconstruction. It's restoration. So the hose bed it's not bad. It's just got to be restored. So there's nothing out there we have to chase for parts. Everything is there. On the engine rebuild, he does have a donor engine if we find something that's in that bad a shape. But yes, I mean, I would love to have that ready to go. We're looking at, after town meeting, of the truck leaving Stoughton this fall. And he said that we would not get we wouldn't have the parade next year, but he believes for the following year we'll be all set. We should be getting it back in the fall of 2022.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. And would you consider putting it in front of the Historical Society for people to see, or someplace downtown?
Oh, without a doubt, Diana, I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
believe me, this is more fun than being on the select board, because everything, people enjoy it. People have fun. I've done that. And for the first time, I used Facebook this past year for the 4th of July parade. And I posted a video of it, that I had somebody with me who was taking a picture of me driving it. We were down Ames Pond area. We were just randomly driving around. And if somebody waved, we stopped. So we spent, like I said, 7.5 hours. And I want to say we probably saw at least 100 people that day right on this street. So I love that. And it's not doing good when it sits in a garage. That's what I was saying right along, is this is a living piece of history that comes to you, and I want to keep that going.
Well, I support you, and thank you for all your work in this.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the Finance Committee? You
Mr.
good?
Chairman, I'll have a couple of things to say, but I do see that an IGR member, Frank Lyons, has his hand up, so perhaps Frank should go first.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't think of my question until after some discussion. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to review the document from Joe. I didn't get it. So if you mentioned the show, I apologize. Thank you for taking care of the truck. But it's a significant amount of money the town is going to kick in to fix up the truck, and the town doesn't own the truck. And you said that, if the Historical Society ever needs to or wants to, sell the truck off, the first right would go to the town. Is that what you said, Joe?
Yes. What we're doing, Frank, is we're going to make sure, and I want this to stay in Stoughton. So I'm going to write this thing so that basically Stoughton's going to say we're not paying $1 for it.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to
Yes.
make sure that if the town is kicking in money,
Yes.
because we all know these antique vehicles, the prices go up. All right. That at least the town will get credit for the money that, if it's 200 or 300, whatever it is, that whatever price it would be offered to the town would be less the money the town kicked in to fix it.
Yeah, it's going to be $1. Take that to the bank. It's going to be written. It's going to say the town can purchase the vehicle if they want for $1.
Okay.
So, but it'll be initiated by the board of directors of the Historical Society, because they may get to a point. Let's face it. We all know how historical societies goes, and Stoughton's not alone. We break our backs, and to the credit of Dwight McCarran, our current president, we make the building available when we can, but sometimes just a lot of people don't come out. And I was always hoping that this truck would serve as that. That's why I like parking it on the lawn at the Historical Society, because then we could throw a rope on them and drag them inside and show them what we have as well.
Okay.
But,
Yeah. So the town, it's not like at some point in the future the town would end up paying $185,000 in addition to what they already kicked in.
No, it won't. The agreement will be written for a sum of $1.
Okay. Thank you.
And if I could interject here real quickly, Mr. Chairman, through you to the previous speaker, the CPC considered a number of these things, Frank. Rest assured that we looked at whether or not this vehicle met the requirements for historical preservation. The vehicle itself is an item of historical importance to the town. That was determined through the Historical Society and Historical Commission. So we used those parameters to determine whether or not CPC funds could be used for this. And it falls within those parameters. So just wanted to give you that clarification.
Okay, Vaughn, I guess you're up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Elliot has his hand up, so if Elliot want to go first, whatever you want to do, Elliot.
Just a quick question to Joe McCrisky. I know in the past in various parades around the area, we would pay, we'll say, a drum and bugle corps or something to appear in a parade. Does the does a fire truck have any way of appearing in a parade and getting some compensation, money raising, that sort of thing?
No, I've never been paid for anything that the truck does. Believe me, I'd love to get paid a $100 fee just for fuel. But no, it doesn't happen. The only thing that we were offered money since we've had this truck is we did a wedding with it in Easton. And in that document I sent over, you have a picture. And it was former fire chief Richard Vanston's great-great-grandson, who was a Stoughton resident and got married. And I had actually worked with the photographer. He was going to pay us $500 to have the fire truck there. And then we found out who it was. And I don't think there's anybody who's going to say to a descendant of, a gentleman who was our police chief and our fire chief in the 1900s and family resides here to say, we're going to take your money. That's the benefit of it. That's what this fire truck should be doing. So believe me, if I could ever turn the trophies into money, maybe we could do something. We do win trophies with it. But no, to answer your question, I've never been offered any money. And usually the fire trucks that are in there from bordering towns is sort of an agreement. We'll come to your town and you come to ours.
Good enough. I was just hoping somebody would come with a bundle of cash.
Oh, me too. I could spend it.
Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot.
All right, Vaughn, are you up or is somebody else out there?
Yeah, I don't see any of the hands up. I just wanted to kind of say thank you to Mr. McCrisky for bringing this truck around and looking at all the pictures, essentially bringing a lot of joy to a lot of people. I think it's great that this is happening. I'm looking at the wedding picture right now on page 29 of the documents. These are great pictures. Thanks for doing this. I think this is really, really nice. And if anybody's interested in any history, page 24, we have a former member of the Finance Committee on there, Leo Malin. Reading that. It's a little history there, page 24. Page 30, I like that you talk about how that, I think it's a historical society. Engine 2 serves as a living memorial to the members of the Stoughton Fire Department who served our community and responded to emergencies during Engine 2 service from 1928 to its retirement in 1956. I absolutely support this. I think it's just really good idea. It's really, I don't know how to put it, but it's pretty cool. My other question here is this a cash article or a CPC cash or borrowing? What is this?
Yeah, it is cash, CPC cash.
Then I absolutely support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, cash talks. All right, does any from the public wish to comment on the fire truck restoration? See any hands up, Vaughn?
I do not see any hands up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're done with this one then.
Great, thank you very much, all, and I appreciate your kind words. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, why don't we do the two CPC items? Can anybody call up the CPC budget and share it?
Are you asking me, Mr. Chairman?
If you have it, or maybe Dave is pretty good at this stuff. He can bring
Actually,
it up.
I have Barry Castler with me tonight, and he has been willing to take on the task of overviewing the budget with you. Barry, could you unmute yourself? He has a small presentation.
Yeah, Ed's asking Mark for you to have someone on CPC to share their screen.
Let me see if I can do that.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
All set.
Bill usually does it. Mary Jane, are you out there?
Well, Ed, I think he's got permission now to share, but I'm not sure.
Oh, that's fine. You can share. Okay, so you're available if we have any questions. Mary Jane?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Barry, are you ready to share the screen?
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
I'm trying to get the budget motion up now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's see.
And this is Article 25, right, Ed?
Article 25, right.
All right.
Community preservation budget for FY '22.
Okay, can everybody see the budget now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, there's actually two pieces of paper. There's a detail sheet also. I'm not sure how to share two sheets at the same time. Maybe I can just go back and forth between the two. Let me pull the other one up as well. Okay. And I don't know if the figures are large enough to see on this document for everyone.
Yeah. See, you can make it a little bit bigger.
Let's see if
Is
I
that
can.
possible?
Let me see if I can enlarge it. Hang on.
That's good. That's pretty good there. That's good enough, right there.
Okay. So we'll start with this screen. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to present the budget for fiscal year 2022. And on this detail sheet, the place to start is we set the budget. We estimate how much we're going to have in revenue for the CPC, for the CPA, for the coming fiscal year. And that's done by taking the actual receipts for 2020, conservatively estimating 95% of that figure, and that gives you the $771,893 that you see at the top of the screen. To that, we add 20%, which is a conservative estimate again of what the state's reimbursement is going to be. The state kicks in a matching amount, which is, it changes from year to year. 20% is a conservative estimate of what it'll be this year. And we also add just investment income and other general income. So that doesn't amount to much. And the total funding is $953,934. And from that, and I guess we could stay on this screen, we reserve 10% for each of the three accounts to open space. And you can see that pretty much at the bottom of column 2. And then same amount for historic resources and the same amount for community housing. We also set aside 5% of revenues for administrative expenses. That's up here. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen.
Yeah, we can see it. Yep.
Okay, good. And then after those are deducted, I'm going to go back just for a minute, if I can, to the main budget motion. So just bear with me. I have it. I just want to be able to get to it. Okay. So as you see, as I discussed, we have the administrative expenses, the three reserved accounts at 10%. So that, you subtract those from the estimated income, and that leaves $620,058. That goes into the budgeted annual reserve. And what we do is then we assign, we have bonds that we have to pay. So this year's, the bonds that we have to pay, excuse me, are bonds that are already issued. So we have the principal and the interest. The total on that is under long-term debt service, $368,451. We also take any bonds that we haven't yet issued but have already been authorized, and we take 3.5% of that as a conservative interest rate. That comes up to $35,703 for the year. And if you go back, if I can go back to the detailed sheet just for a moment. So those are accounted for as well. And we've also accounted for, assuming they pass the two items this year, engine 2, $185,000, and the COVID supplement of $250,000. So for fiscal year 2022, debt service in total is $368,451. With a cap, we're allowed to have debt service per year of up to the amount of money that we anticipate that we'll be receiving. And that represents 48% of that cap. So we're still well within our legal limit. I just want to point out that the CPC is not recommending any new bonded projects this year. There were not any new bonded projects last year. And as I say, both of the new articles we're recommending are cash expenditures. So I just want to ask if there's any questions from either the Finance Committee or the IGR, and be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Okay, so basically, just as a quick overview, we get charged a CPC percentage. You get some kind of a state match. We have to allocate 10% to each bucket, and then the rest goes into undesignated fund balance.
Right. It's a pretty standard budget. It's
basically right. Okay.
As they go.
All right. Does anybody, anybody from your committee wish to have a question about the budget?
Does anyone from IGR have questions in regards to this article?
Yeah, Frank here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just I think I saw a couple items for the Cape and Reynolds, and I thought several years ago that money had been approved by town meeting for like a dog park. All right, and is that whatever became of that project, or am I just remembering incorrectly?
Yeah, what's showing are 2 bond payments that will be paid in the coming fiscal year for Cape and Reynolds. There's $10,250 and $7,075.
So was there a dog park a few years ago that
That
never
is part
happened?
of the recreation application, yes.
All right, so is that project, because I don't think there's a dog park, is that
No.
still happening, or?
That is still happening. We just heard from Dick Terry, who is the chairman of the Cape and Reynolds Committee, and that is one of the things that they're trying to work on and get underway. I know it's been delayed. They've had some issues with their the engineer that they used, and they have had some unfortunate delays, and we're trying to get that out and get it done. We definitely try to impress upon that committee that that's something that needs to be done right away, and they are working on it, and we are keeping on top of it.
Okay, yeah, because during the pandemic, I recently acquired a dog. So I've become much more, I always supported that project, but I've become much more interested in it now that I'm looking forward to using it. So thank you for responding to that.
Thanks for your question.
All right, anybody else from Intergovernmental have questions? All right, hearing none. Okay, Finance Committee, anybody have any questions about the budget?
Chairman, John Anzavino, Dave Lurie, and Elliot Hansen all have their hands up.
I'll go with Elliot first.
All right, thank you. In the event they get this dog park underway and everything else, I was going to ask what happens to the kitties, but no. Is there insurance? Is there insurance or anything else that the historical commission or whoever owns the park has to have in case there's a problem down there?
That would be under the Cape and Reynolds Committee, and I don't know the specific answer to that insurance question. I don't know if anybody else does.
All right, thank you.
All right, Dave, you want to go?
Well, actually, John came before me, if you want to let him go.
Okay, good, John.
Thank you, David. Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at the document that we have, for the Article 25 in a proposed motion, which is different than what we actually have in the warrant that we received back on the same date, 2/12. This says 2/22. So I don't know if there's a new warrant that's been produced that we don't have yet or that I missed, but I guess my question is, the article that we had in the warrant on 2/12 listed a cost of $1,243,836, and I was just wondering, that number doesn't seem to show up anywhere. So could you just explain the difference in how we have what you're showing us here compared to what we were actually given in the middle of February?
What we have now, or the draft that we have now in the motion, are the latest numbers.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
The draft that we had that I just put up before on the screen, that is the latest figures.
Well, I'll ask the chairman then. Do we have a new warrant that's been done that we don't have?
I haven't seen one yet. I know they were working on cleaning up the old one, but I haven't seen a new one come out yet.
I received the cleaned up draft late last night. And I'll be going through it and we'll be incorporating numbers that we have. Some of these numbers we didn't have yet.
All right. So all right, I'll just make note that this article that we have, the warrant that we have is no good, you know, that it's not accurate. That's fine. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Through you. I was wondering, Barry, if you could bring up that document again. I had a question about the material.
Yep.
That same one with the buckets of revenue and the projects underneath.
Okay.
So on the last column of undesignated, I'm curious about the columns because you have a category of appropriations and reservations in bold at the top of where the projects are listed with the debt service, et cetera.
Yes.
But they line up perfectly with the columns in the above chart. So I'm wondering, does that mean undesignated is paying for the 10 projects that are down below because they line up that way? And I just want to see if that's where you're taking the dollars from that bucket to do those specific projects.
Yes, that's where this year's payment is coming for all of those bonds.
Oh, okay, so so it's connected. It's associated with the same column.
Yep.
All right, because my curiosity had to do with why is there a thing called undesignated if it can pay for just about everything? Is it just really like a catch-all for any bonding that goes on to projects?
Yeah, let me move the screen a little bit. The three reserved categories, open space, historic, and community housing, are restricted accounts that can only be used for those categories. So a lot of the bonding is done with undesignated, which is basically the largest percentage of funds in the account.
So you can allocate from that bucket just as easily as any other bucket.
Correct.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay.
But you can only allocate from the three buckets for the particular uses that fit.
Okay, no, it's interesting. So you typically don't use the undesignated for cash projects. It's kind of, you steer most of your bond payments out of that one.
Well, on cash projects, the idea is to use the most restricted funds first.
Okay.
So if there's a possibility of using those, then that's what we would do.
Okay. I wanted to change subjects a little bit. I'm not sure who can answer. So there's been a lot of talk about the housing trust.
Yes.
So I was wondering about how much influence CPA has once money gets moved to a housing trust. Is that something that's coming up in an upcoming? If it's outside the scope,
Well, for right now, yeah, this is just the budget. The next article, well, we can talk about the housing trust thing.
Oh, okay, I can save that. All right. Yeah, somebody already asked about Cape and Reynolds. I also had that question, so I'm good there. So thank you. I think we're good. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the Finance Committee have any questions on the budget?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on this.
Okay,
we just
go ahead.
get a new copy of the warrant, and is that going to reflect these numbers, I guess, would be my question.
I don't have to ask Robin, if it's ready yet or what the status is.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Robin, you have an update on a new warrant or incorporating these changes?
Yeah, as I said, I received it late last night. I will go through it likely tomorrow with anything that we have, even tonight's information, and I should have another draft to you, I'm hoping before tomorrow night's meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, all right, so everybody else good in the Finance Committee about the budget? All right, anybody from the public have any questions about the CPC budget? Hearing none. We will move on to Article 35. The supplemental funding for the COVID-19 Emergency Housing Assistance Fund. Who would like to speak to this one?
Hi, Mr. Chair, Mark Zemanian, Treasurer of the CPC and Chair of the Housing Subcommittee. Thank you for your time tonight. Last year, the Select Board applied for and the CPC recommended favorably on an emergency assistance program for Stoughton residents facing financial hardships due to the COVID-19. The CPC and the town generously provided $510,000 to fund this program. This program covers up to 70% of monthly rent or 70% of monthly principal and interest payments, up to $1,500 per month, and up to $9,000 total per family. At the time, nobody knew how long the pandemic would last or how long people would be dealing with the financial fallout. The Housing Subcommittee met on January 19th, 2021, and determined that we are nearing the exhaustion of the available allocated funds. Further, we anticipate that the demand for assistance will continue to grow. Many Stoughton residents are understandably reluctant to ask for assistance until they have no other options. Stoughton is a strong and resilient community of hardworking folks. As time goes on and people remain out of work or on reduced hours, the need gets more urgent. We're here tonight requesting that the Finance Committee consider additional funding for the program in order to be able to provide assistance without interruption. If the town currently was to do nothing at this time, the funds would be in danger of being exhausted, and we could find ourselves with no expeditious way of providing for the families in the program now and those who will be looking for assistance in the months ahead. For this reason, the Housing Subcommittee, on behalf of the Select Board, applied to the CPC for an additional $250,000 in funding, which was unanimously passed by the CPC, and placed an article on the 2021 annual town meeting warrant. These funds, if approved by town meeting, would provide the means to continue to help the Stoughton residents through this most difficult time. The Housing Subcommittee looked at what has been spent to date and the anticipated increase in applications. We further did an analysis projecting how much money would be spent once current and pending applications reach their maximum payouts through the program. This information indicated to us that Stoughton residents are now feeling the strain of the prolonged shutdown to our economy, and we feel it prudent to ask for consideration to replenish the Housing Assistance Fund. This allows the town to continue to support those residents who are struggling to make ends meet, and further puts the town in a position to confidently continue to stabilize our housing market, keeping folks in their homes, and allowing the state and federal government to respond to this ever-changing pandemic. You received a spreadsheet in your packet that Barry and Vaughn sent out, and that explains how we estimated that money. It had an estimation chart, and that varied from running out of money anywhere between as early as August to as late as November. We believe that November is probably the more likely scenario, late October, early November. So again, I ask the Finance Committee tonight to realize the importance of this program and vote to recommend to town meeting Article 35. Through the hard work of the Housing Subcommittee, the CPC, and the Select Board, we have accomplished what we intended to, and that was to help residents struggling with loss of income, and additionally have provided a stable future for Stoughton's housing market. I thank you for your time tonight and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have at this time.
Okay, and just generally speaking, what's the funding source? Is it going to be cash?
It is indeed. It's a cash expenditure from the CPC that will come directly out of the undesignated fund.
Okay, thank you.
Or the housing, I'm sorry, or the housing account if there's any money in there.
In that bucket, yep, okay. Okay, Agavon, does anybody in your committee have any questions?
Does anyone from IGR have questions? If so, please identify yourself. Anyone? Janice?
Thank you, Agavon. I just want to let you know that I think that this is a great idea and I support it.
Thank you, Janice.
I don't see anyone else from IGR.
You guys all set? Okay. All right, FinCom, who has a question?
Ranzavino and Elliot have their hands up.
We'll do Elliot first and then Mr. Anzavino.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a quick question there on the housing assistance, for the COVID. What is the cutoff time? How do we determine when we stop the COVID thing? Is there some official thing that says COVID is over, we have cured it, or tell me about that. How's that going to work? There's got to be some cutoff time or ending time.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the speaker, Elliot, we have not finalized that. We're sort of keeping an eye on what the state has to say and the federal government has to say. Also what they're doing as far as providing assistance to folks as well. I know there was a large $1.9 trillion package that was just passed. I don't know how that's going to trickle out, nor do I think any of us local folks know how that's going to trickle out yet. But we have every intention of keeping the program running as long as COVID continues to affect people's finances.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I guess no definitive answer is available because no definitive end is available. Thank you.
Correct.
Unfortunately, yes, but thank you for the question.
Okay, Mr. Anzavino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Zamanian. First, I do support this. I think it was great when they did it the first time and they funded it. And, it's unfortunate that most of those funds have been used and that you need more to help out the residents that may need it. So I am fully in favor of this article and I fully intend to support it. The question I had for you, the original one that went in, I believe the extra 10,000 was to help administer the program.
That's correct. Yep.
Is that 10 still available to help with this, or will money come out of the 250? Or?
So, great question through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Anzavino. To date, we have not been charged any money from the Housing Authority, which is the entity administering the fund. So we did not see the need or purpose of putting additional funds aside for administrative costs. There will be some costs, but they're not going to exceed the 10,000 in the original appropriation. So we saw no need to supplement that as well. I do want to say, if I could, that out of Massachusetts, I believe we are the cheapest program when it comes to administering these programs. I don't think anybody's been able to do it cheaper than this. If this goes through town meeting, we will have allocated $750,000, which on a population basis it rivals cities like Newton as far as the actual dollar value going to the residents. We made a great number of attempts to help homeowners as well beyond the deed restrictions. The Massachusetts government has offered a CDBG-CV grant, of which there was $400,000 and some odd available to Stoughton residents, whether or not they had a deed restriction. So any homeowner could tap into that as long as they have had a loss of income due to the COVID. That has been on our website, John, for since we found out about it. Barry and myself dug it out. So I can't tell you who or how much has been tapped of that, but I do know there's still money available to that.
All right. Well, thank you, and I think it's great that you haven't incurred a lot of costs, through the Housing Authority, which is good to hear, and that the 10 that was originally appropriated will probably be more than sufficient to cover the rest of the program. So thank you very much. Appreciate the efforts, and again, I will fully support this one. And Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Carrara had his hand up as well.
All right, Scott, you're up.
I'll let Jess go first, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sure. Go ahead, Jess.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks, Mark. I'm also incredibly supportive of this effort. Very happy that you're working on this, so thank you so much. I am interested, and I apologize if I missed this. Did you say how many households have taken advantage of the first round of funding so far from Stoughton?
I didn't, because I don't have that information in front of me. Barry, could you dig up what we have for current numbers? Barry Kessler? I see him, he's looking at it.
Yeah, I believe it's about 35 households so far.
35 households. Okay, and have you had far more applications than that, and you can't, sort of meet those needs? I'm just interested in the numbers a little bit on that.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. There was, off the top of my head, 15 or 16 families that did not qualify. Additionally, I think we have approximately 20 applications in process, meaning they're missing paperwork or something's not jiving for the Housing Authority. Colleen Doherty from the Housing Authority, one of the reasons that she volunteered to do this for us is they had a really good system in place. So all she had to do was take the parameters we had set at the Housing Subcommittee and plug them into her own program. It really made for a streamlined, intelligent program that worked very well. So it doesn't surprise me that some people haven't qualified. I do know we sent some folks over to the IRMA program, which is the CDBG CV money. What we did, just so you know, is we estimated this a couple of different ways. We saw an uptick in, I believe it was February, of applicants. So we estimated the numbers in 3 different forms. If numbers were to stay flat and we would continue to get what we've been getting for applications, then we went to 3 families per month additional, and then 5 families per month additionally. We run out of money at the end of September, I'm sorry, at the beginning of August, if we have 3 new families additionally without this funding. It was prudent for us. We don't know that it will all get spent, but I'd sure like to have the money if we need it, rather than have to scramble for, putting people off and causing further disruption to them while we try and vie for the supplemental in November or December or whenever we have a special.
And so we've been able to support all families who have applied and qualified so far, correct? And the only ones that we haven't supported are those who didn't qualify through the application process.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for all of your clarifications.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott.
To you, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I'm working off the wrong warrant or what, but this article is 35, and the one that I got, it says 37. And I got one that says voted warrant, and I don't know why it's 37 and 35. Am I wrong, or is the number wrong? I was just wondering.
I don't know. I didn't look at the
I mean, it
warrant
might change when we get the new warrant, and it might be right then. I just was wondering. The one I have is just, it says voted warrant, and it was the one that said it was posted at Pages or whatever and all that, and it just says, because I was looking and I was like, this can't be right. It says Article 37 is the supplemental funding for COVID-19 emergency housing assistance, so.
Yeah, it's 35 in my, Mr. Carrera, on my warrant. Yep, that's the voted warrant that says 2/12/21 on it.
I have 2/2/21, so.
There you go.
All right. I just wanted to make sure I was wrong and we weren't wrong.
It's good on the agenda.
Thank you.
Is that anybody else on the Finance Committee have a question? I have just a couple questions, and to Mark. Do you get one chance at the total $9,000, or can you reapply? And 2, does the Housing Authority have people go to like government vouchers first before they hit the fund, or are there any rules about that or anything to that nature?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So each family is entitled to exhaust the full $9,000. That could be broken up in 2 sessions if somebody, say their hours increased and they no longer qualified, but then they fell back off of it for any number of reasons. We've had a number of up and downs on the lockdown. So as long as they haven't exhausted the $9,000, they could come back and request the additional funding up to $9,000. But every family has a limit of $9,000. When we wrote the policy for this, we ensured that you couldn't, and I don't think it's the right way to say double dip, but if you were accepting help from another state agency, then you would not qualify for this. So
Okay.
we wanted to ensure that this help got to the people that really truly had no other options. You know, there's lots of programs out there, and thankfully many people are getting help from the state and other agencies. We wanted to make this specifically about our residents who could not get any of those assistance programs, that they still had a safety line, you know?
Yeah, an option, right. Okay,
An option.
thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you.
anybody else FitCom? I'm gonna go to the public next. Are we all set?
Chairman, I just wanted to say that I think that this is it's a good article. I think it's nice that the CPC stepped up on this again to help out, and that's about it. So I think you can go to the public now.
Good, thank you. Anybody from the public have any questions on Article 35, supplemental funding for the COVID emergency fund? All right, hearing none. All right, so we're done with that one. That takes care of all the CPC stuff. All right, so we'll go on to, well, let's see, Mark's got one and Mr. McNulty has one. I should be hopefully fairly simple. Let's do Article 21, SOAR capital, inflow and
Thank you, Mark
infiltration.
and Barry. We'll see you. Thank you. Just saying thank you to Mark and Barry.
Yep, thanks for that information, guys. Yep, that was great. Okay, is Mr. McNulty here? You gonna take this one?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, could
Yeah,
you go over this article, how much you're looking for, and just explain what I&I is?
Please give the article number.
Article 21.
Yes, I know the board in general has seen this article repeatedly year after year. It's to, the main purpose is to investigate, design, and construct repairs to the aging sewer system, manholes that leak, pipes that leak at joints and cracks. Those leaks lead to additional flow that leaves the town. The line item in the sewer enterprise fund is around 5.4 million, and is to combat that meter reading, which leads to the cost to MWRA. Stoughton's flow share of the greater Boston area is about 1%. To give you some idea, Boston's 28, Cambridge is around 5, Newton, Quincy around 4, so Stoughton's around 1. So it gives you some perspective of where we stand generally. So we're asking for 400,000 to replenish the funds that go to these repairs, and 75% of the MWRA is grant, and the 25% is 0% loan, and so it's a good bang for the buck in that MWRA pays 3/4 of it, and that's about it. If you have any questions.
Okay. Agavon, any of your members have any questions?
Any members of IGR have questions in regards to this article? Don't see any. No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, FinCom, anybody got any questions on I&I?
Chairman Elliott has a question.
Okay, Elliot, you're up.
Thank you. For the I&I and for the Title V connections and stuff, there used to be a low or no interest program for people to connect to that. What can you tell me about that?
I don't believe that's included in anything with here. I think Mark Tisdale is on. Mark, do you know anything about that?
Could you repeat the question, Bill?
The question was if people are coming off of the septic system, Title V system, and joining the Stoughton system, is there any grant money available to assist in that? And as far as I know, the focus of this article is the answer is no. So I don't know if there's some other program out there to help fund that stuff.
Yeah, the answer to your question is there is a low interest loan program that we have, that septic betterment program. It's not just for septic systems, it's for sewer connections also. So that's the article we typically have every 3 years for around $400,000. It's a pretty active program. Many people take advantage of it.
Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else? On FinCom, anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question on this.
Go ahead.
Last year, how much did we get the amount for? What was the amount we did last year on this, the I&I?
I think it might have been 500,000. And 650 the year before that. I'd have to go back and look.
And what have we actually been spending? I know we talk about this every year, but what have we actually been spending? Do we need to borrow the 400, or are we actually spending less than that?
The current construction article right now is between engineering and construction is about 1.4 million. So, you know, as we use it, it just needs to be replenished. It's simple as that, really.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Eddie.
Vino has a question.
John, okay, go ahead, John.
But actually, I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Nokian was just asking. Because as we've gone through this before, we've asked, is there a balance in this? And how much has been used? And if we just put more money in, and do we have, you know, do we have some idea of how much we're looking to spend? So I guess we'll start. Is there a balance in this account? If so, how much? We're looking to do another 4. I know we've put over $1 million in the past couple of years. And the last question is, how much are we getting in return for the money we're spending?
Yeah, I believe it's about 950,000 is in the balance. I'd have to check with Bill Rowe on that. He accumulates all these year to year and approves the money for the spending to MWRA. But I think the amount is just shy of $1 million.
All right, that's one question.
Yeah. What was the second one? There was a lot of them.
How much is accumulated? You know, what's projected that you're going to need? And what's the rate of return we've been getting for the money that we're putting into this?
Yeah, those are tough questions.
Well, I mean, they're questions that need to be answered.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, from year to year, it depends on what the groundwater table's doing. So the engineers, they give us a report each year after we've TV'd everything that we're interested in TVing for a scope of a project. They calculate, based on MWRA standards, what credit can be given to the cutoff of flow. Now, there's two items that contribute to our flow share. One is population. That's about 50%. There's not much I can do about that. The other component is the flow itself. That's where this comes in, and that's where it directly addresses line 4 on the sewer enterprise fund. If we don't continue to cut off flow, that number will continue to rise because our meter reading will rise. So there is a report. I could make that available to you. There's probably 10 in the last 10 years. And it calculates what areas the construction program has addressed and what flow that is estimated to cut off. They don't give you 100% credit on what you find and what you reline. They give you basically about 50% credit for those, because when you cut off flow somewhere, it'll move somewhere else on you. So it's a very complex question.
I can add one little thing to that. I track the flows on a monthly basis, and for the fiscal year for the calendar year ending in 2020, on a 3-year rolling basis, the flow increased about 0.1%. It was a very small increase, but a very small improvement, but it was an improvement. It's a very, very difficult game. And I was quite pleased when I saw the result of the 3-year average versus the prior 3-year average, because I know how difficult it can be and what you're up against. That's just something I look at on a monthly basis. Hopefully it helps you out.
Yeah, like I said, it would be nice to know if we're putting the money in that it's actually saving us something somewhere along the line. I know we're either one of the few or only town that gets whacked by population and not just by flow. But it would be nice if we could have something in front of us to say, hey, this is what you're putting in, and this is the money we're saving, so it's worth putting this much money into it, and this is what our plans are. I mean, you know what's in, you have to know what's in the budget to be able to start, you know, looking at what projects you might be able to do. I mean, if you have $1 million, you can do a lot more than if you only had 100,000 left. So you got to have some idea of what's available to be able to move forward. But
Yeah, the scope is unlimited, so, you know, I know what you're getting at. It's not like I'm paying 100 million for a school and there's the school, I got my money's worth. It's not like that. I'll give you an example. Some towns like Dedham have relined their entire sewer system, manholes, pipes, the entire thing. We're trying to keep up with those kind of towns. If we don't keep up with them, we fall behind. We fall behind, our flow share goes higher, and that 5.4 million takes off. We have to do this. There's really not a choice. That number will just run away from us.
The more money you put into it, the better off your results are going to be. I mean,
I've supported this every year. I've either been on the finance committee or the board of selectmen. I've always supported the I&I because they said that it is saving us money in the long run, or it's helping us out. And if they can tell us it's helping us, they should be able to show it. And that's why I'm asking if we have any figures that could show, yeah, we have put in X amount of dollars and this is what we're saving. And because obviously we have a subsidy for this, for the sewer. So obviously we're trying to get to a point where we're self-sufficient. And if we're putting money in to try and, you know, stop the I&I and trying to get ahead, it would be nice to see some concrete figures that are showing we're making progress. That's all.
One of the variables we don't have is what other towns are doing, and that's where our competition is. Not only do we have to keep up with Canton and Quincy and Newton, but we have to do better than them to get ahead. If we just do what they're doing, we'll stay the same. So that variable there would have to collectively be plugged into your question to be able to answer that question. It's not like we pay per the gallon and we're standalone, that's it. If that were the case, we could do that. But it's a flow share, it's a percentage of overall use. The MWRA's total budget is 500 million. So our flow share of that is 1%, around 5 million, which is what you see. So it depends what the other towns are doing. And that's why your question is so difficult to answer.
Well, I try and be difficult. That's all. You know, that's my job. So. And I appreciate, you know, I appreciate the input from you, Mr. McNulty and Ms.
I certainly appreciate the question.
It would be nice to see some correlation between the money spent and the money that's, you know, the results of the money we're spending, if you will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that Mr. Carrara has a question, as does Mr. Lurie. And John Rock has a question too. I'll have another question too, but I think those three have had their hand up.
Let's go Mr. Rock first. Haven't heard from him today.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm totally in favor of this article. I think if you ever stop spending for this, you just put a halt to it, and then you see how much we're saving. If you stop this program for a couple of years, all right? So I don't think you can stop it. I think it's a good program. You know, these things are going to leak all over the place, and you just have to keep up with it. So, anyways, keep up the good work. Thanks.
All right, let's go to Intergovernmental first to see if they have any questions. Agabon, can you check with your members?
Sure. Does anyone from Intergovernmental have questions in regards to this article? Anyone? No? Over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Scott, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. McNulty. Phil, are the receipts that are received at the engineering department figured into this, or is that held alone to the side on the I&I that gets paid for the 330 per bedroom permits?
Good question. I'm not sure. Mark, do you know the answer to that question?
I know we charge the, like Scott said, an I&I fee. and it goes into the sewer enterprise account. At that point, I don't know how it's used or where it goes.
Well, it's on the side account. We have to vote it out at some point, the dollars. We did that a couple of years ago. I don't know what's in there. Bill tracks the dollars.
Yeah, I think it's the same spreadsheet that Bill tracks from the I&I articles and includes those.
I was just curious what the amount was, because I haven't seen anything, and that's something that I'd like to see. But
Mary Jane,
on the other side of the coin, we're charged 100% on population, not 50%. 100%. We're the ones behind the 8 ball trying to get our town to 100% sewered. That's why it was such a bad deal when it was done. Nobody in the state of Massachusetts has that attachment to them. And I understand what you mean, how we got to play catch up. But we're behind the 8 ball all the way. And no matter what Phil's rabbit he can pull out of his hat and whatever can be done, we're always going to be a little bit behind the 8 ball. We're always playing catch up. So I just want everybody to know that it's not 50%, it's 100% that we're, there's no such thing as 50% of the population. They were 1 on the 100.
That's correct. The population is 100%, but it's not taken as a percentage of the entire assessment. It's only I think what Phil meant, it's only taken as 50% of the assessment.
Yeah,
Yes, you're charged for the 28,000 people or the 20,000 people that are on sewer, but 24. It's not the entire assessment.
Yeah, and there's only 24 and change residents in the town right now, and we're getting charged on that. So, I don't know what we do. I mean, you got a census that tells you what's in town. We should be getting a little break there. I don't know how much it is, but it's easy to prove that. There's a census on that. And I think there's something that's got to be worked out at the State House to change the way we get charged. I don't think it's fair. What's going through the meter is what's going through the meter. And Phil and Mark are trying to fix the inflow, which isn't as much as what we're paying when you add on the population charge. The population charge is just a gratis grab. Yeah. That's all it is. So I don't want everybody to think that they're mishandling I&I. We're being mishandled at the state level.
I would add further that, the more inflow and infiltration we have, the more burden it puts on our 12 pump stations, soon to be 13, 14, and 15 pump stations. It helps on that end too. As far as this article goes, the only thing I can do in my power is try to fight the flow. My power, our power, to address this infiltration issue is to fight the uphill battle.
And like Phil says, on some things he can slow it down on one street, and because the sewer main has stone around it and it can't get in there, it'll work its way down and work its way up another street and find the cracks there or the leaks there. So it's sometimes it's like, where is it? Where's the egg?
I'll piggyback on that and tell you more about the Dedham story. Is after they lined every single manhole and every single pipe, the flow went up the service lines and got in there. So
that's exactly what happens. You're right. You're exactly right.
It's your finger in the dam, and it's just going to leak somewhere else, and you just got to keep at it year after year. And I respect John Anzavino's question, and I understand it, and I share the same frustration. But it's hard to. It's a difficult question to answer.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks, Eddie.
Yep. Dave, were you up?
Oh, I am. Thank you. To Mr. McNulty, I am totally in favor of this. I'm not, there's absolutely no doubt that this is going to pass, and it's not really where I'm coming from on my question. I'm kind of having a hard time understand what our goal is as a town with water, because we're always fighting the percentage of MWRA, and we have a great system of wells with the projects that you've been working, both in the works and have finished. And I'm wondering, is our goal as a town to become 100% on well, and then maintain a connection with the MWRA as a backup in case something dries up and we need that auxiliary water source to, you know, just in case is, you know, that on one hand, and then if we did get to that point, because that was a goal of Stoughton, do you still need I&I in order to protect the amount of well water that gets lost? Because there's a cost of water even when we're independent. And lastly, if we're spending $5 million because we're trying to keep up with the rest of the state with our percentage, that's a huge, to me, it sounds like a huge ROI story, because, you know, if you just needed a capital expenditure to get to that 100% independence with wells, it seems like it would pay for itself so fast because we've got so much going out the door to the MWRA. So I just need help understanding, like, what are, as a goal of the town, what is it, what are we trying to do, and does I&I fit into what we need in order to protect the investment in wells, even if we did achieve that? So it's kind of a multi-part question. I apologize for that, but
yeah, yes, and I'm okay answering all of those. If you refresh my memory, but I just if we're okay getting off track here, I'm fine with it. You know, so I would say, so on the water side, I know we're talking about sewer here, but your question was on water supply. We're basically supplying ourselves 96%, and MWRA is down to 4%. We have the MWRA's pipe that runs through Canton and feeds Stoughton is 5 miles long, 16 inches in diameter. That's 250,000 gallons of water in there. So we use that 4% to run that and keep that water fresh and not have aged water. So so as you mentioned, in an emergency situation, we would have that ready. So we use it on a daily basis to keep that water fresh. There is an option, we can shut it off and just use our own supplies and go to zero, but we lose that emergency connection unless, if we did have an emergency, you had to use that water, we would have to dump the first $250,000 on the ground because it wouldn't be fresh. So that's the risk reward there. So that line item used to be 1.2 million. It's down to like 150 or 160,000. So it's a judgment call. My judgment is we should use it at a low level and have it as emergency. So next question is on the I&I.
Yeah, using I&I for the wells, because is the cost of water in our wells such that we need I&I for that?
Yeah, almost two different things.
Yep.
When your water system has leaks, water's leaking out of the water pipes through cracks, service lines, etc. The reverse is true on the sewer system. You know, the I&I article addresses cracks in the sewer system coming into it. So one's coming in on sewer, and on water, we're losing water going out. That's called unaccounted for water, which we have to report to the state every year. So it's kind of the same pipes, but in reverse. They're not really related. They're separate issues. The water system, you know, leakage doesn't really, it's, you know, in theory, I guess one drop of water could make it into the sewer, but it's highly unlikely. They're really two separate systems going on there.
Okay.
And,
okay.
You know,
I appreciate. I think that covers
yeah.
it. Thank you.
As far as, you know, our options are build our own treatment plant, try somewhere to discharge.
Yeah,
it's going to be a $40 million project, you know, and we have no river to dump it into when it's cleaned up. Like we don't have the Charles here, we don't have the Merrimack or the Ipswich. There's nowhere for us to build our own system. We're kind of married to this MWRA. We're at their mercy, frankly. And about the only thing we can do is crank away at I&I.
Sue the rest of the town. Get 100%. All right. Did I see John Rock? Did you have a question?
Yeah, just I think this point's been made, but so this article's about sewer.
Right.
Has nothing to do with water wells.
Correct.
And the only way for us to be independent is for us to build our own sewage treatment plant.
There you go.
At a cost of $40 million. So, you know, we're pretty much married to the MWRA, and the more we can restrict the outflow, you know, the more money we save. So,
exactly right. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And the only other thing we could really do is up this article. If you want to do more, 750, $1 million, or whatever, let's keep the matching, make a bigger projects and all that. But
Yeah, again, I'll just repeat that something I've already said is the match is 75%. So, you know, you can look at it two ways. If we're asking for 400,000, our contribution to that is really 100,000. Or you can look at it as, yeah, we put 400,000 in, but MWRA is going to give us 1.2 million. So it's a pretty good deal.
Okay, anybody else from FinCom?
Mr. Chairman, Elliot has his hand up. I have another question too, but I think Elliot has his hand up for a while.
Okay, go ahead, Elliot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question here. If we're using 95% or 96% of our own well water, and a high percentage of it of the sewage is going out to the wastewater for MWRA, what is recharging the aquifers we have? What's happening to the aquifers?
Yeah, well, we're not I'm going to safely say we're not recharging the aquifer with the water system. I can tell you we are, because our unaccounted for water is about 3.5%. That's pretty good. That's pretty low. The state standard is 10%, and we're well below that. So that's a pretty tight system. We work hard at that. So to give you some round numbers, is our average daily usage is 2 million gallons a day as a town throughout the year. Close to 3 million in the summer and less than 2 million in the winter time, but average of 2. What's leaving our system in the sewer system is 3 million gallons. So you can see there's a 1 million gallon a day difference there. That's I&I. That's a problem. You know, it's just so from kind of Sue had outlined, like it's a 3-year rolling average. That's to take the curse off of any one spike in a year to try to soften that. They do that for every town. But that'll vary depending on rainfall. Rainfall equals groundwater level. So, and when the groundwater comes up and up to the level of the sewer pipe, that's when it's going to leak. If it drops, then that's the groundwater table's out of play. So, depending on if the sewer pipe in a low-lying area or a high area, not subject to groundwater, it gets affected positively or negatively. But the disparity is, you know, like I said, we're using, our demand is 2 million gallons and what leaves the town is 3 million gallons. And that's, we're trying to close that gap.
So you could safely say that we're 3 million gallons a day missing from the aquifer recharge if we neglect the rain.
I don't know. The water comes from someplace else.
Yeah. You know, for that question, I would assume that both systems are tight. Then they're not 100% tight, but they're not going to affect each other to that extent. It's more it has to do with the sub basins of the Taunton River Basin and the Neponset as a whole. It's a much bigger picture than just our water and sewer systems.
Oh, I realize that. Thank you very much.
All right, who else? Vaughn, you up?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to find out. So we don't have a balance on the I&I balance amount in the account, do we?
Yeah, that question was asked earlier. It's just shy of 1 million.
Okay, so we know that's what I know. There was a little back and forth on the exact number. Can we get an exact number on that through Mary Jane or Mr. Rowe? Or
yeah, if Mary Jane can answer it, great. I'm sure. I know Bill's not around, but I'm sure he'd have that at his fingertips.
Yeah, Mr. Rowe always says that is his fingertips.
I'm gonna.
My other question.
I'm 90% sure it's just about 1 million, 1,060,000, something like that.
Okay, so we can call it $1 million. Is that?
Yeah.
Basically. All right, thank you. And then my other question is, how much do we collect each year in I&I fees? I think it was said by someone previously, there's like $330 per bedroom and so many dollars per commercial property and all that. And I've heard a lot about waiving I&I fees and that sort of thing. So how much do we collect each year and how much is waived each year? I guess would be the question on this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mary Jane.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mary Jane Martin. I'm actually covering for Mr. Rowe tonight. I do not have his I&I report in front of me, but I'm taking notes as you're all asking questions, and I will get all that information to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else?
So, Mr. Anokian's question, I think Mark's probably better suited to answer that question. Because they issue the sewer permits and I&I fees collection.
I didn't know if we knew how much we collect in there either. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Rowe would have that. But
yeah, he has that. We've seen it before. There's a sheet. He got a fund. He tracks it.
I know
when it gets a certain amount
today, though, like what it is this year. So.
We don't. Mary Jane can get that for us. We can get it tomorrow, or the next day, whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Scott has a question, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sure. Scott?
I just have some statement to help some of the board members understand what I&I is. Phil hasn't touched on it. He's got so many questions thrown at him, but a lot of the problem in the town is we have several different kinds of pipe that has been put in several different times of years. You have clay pipe that was put in back in like the 30s and the 40s and maybe a little earlier than that. Some of it's gasketed, some of it's got what they call tar tamp, which it looks good going in, it shrinks, it becomes a leak. Some of the pipe is 8 feet, some of it's 4 foot lengths. You know, there's different diameters. Then you move into some of the big cross-country pipes are concrete, and the concrete will wear out in the bottom. So they'll go in and they'll find like, there could be like 6 inches of the bottom of the pipe missing, and you know, now you're in trouble. It's hard to line it. Some pipes get inserted. It's tricky, but it doesn't show up until something leaks or rears its ugly head. Then they went to an asbestos concrete, which if it wasn't bedded properly, it cracks and you don't find it, but you find it when you put a plug in the main and you see the water spraying in. I mean, there's so many different kinds. We have gone strictly to plastic now. So your households, plastic pipes going into clay mains, transite pipes, which is the asbestos concrete, clay mains, and it's the plastic it's airtight. You can air test it, and that's what's saving the new generation of the new roadways that are going in. That's something Phil doesn't have to worry about, because if they're put in properly, you don't have to worry about them. But it's the old stuff that's starting to rear its ugly head.
Okay.
Exactly right. By way of example, I'll tell you that Chapman Road, we found that whole road is all, as Scott said, a generation of clay pipe there. The older stuff is short sections. The newer clay pipe, which is still old, is longer sections. Every third joint is leaking like crazy. That's a candidate for lining the whole thing. When we find that stuff, it's an exciting day, because we find leaks. You know, we know they're there. We know there's 1 million gallons out there. Well, it's I'd like to find a silver bullet and say, there it is. There's the 1 million gallons, but it doesn't work like that. It's a drop here and 3 drops there and 5 drops. It's hard work. It's a steady beat drum of addressing, covering areas, TV in the work, and creating contracts to fix them. But that's, you know,
just an ongoing battle.
It's an aging system. When I say aging, I mean 100 years old, 80, you know.
Yep. Things are wearing out. Okay, anybody else on the committee ready to go to the public? Okay, anybody from the public have any questions on sewer capital inflow and out and infiltration?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Bob Mullen.
Bob, go ahead.
Just a quick question. If it's already been asked and answered, I apologize, but I didn't hear it. How many miles of sewer pipeline do we have in Stoughton? Do we know?
90.
90.
Yep.
And the last question I have is, how much of the pipeline has been relined so far over the years?
Funny, I asked our consultant today that exact question. I can get you that answer.
Yeah, I'd be really.
In fact, I asked him actually.
Everybody.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I asked him one further question. Could you put it on a map for us? You know, because
right.
Guys, people like you want to know. I mean, people like me want to know too. You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, if we're using this money to reline, we should know exactly which pipes have been relined, and maybe look into new technology that you're probably looking at now to reline them with to hold up.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to kind of Scott's story there is all this work is, nearly all this work is trenchless. So we're not ripping up streets to fix them. The technology is it's called trenchless technology, cured in place pipe, where you blow in a sort of a burlap bag that's soaked in epoxy, and you blow it in, you pressurize it, and it takes the shape of the host pipe. So in the old days, you'd have to dig that road up and patch it and repave it and all that. So, and even the manholes, they just spin cement from top to bottom and reline it that way. So at least we're not damaging roads and other utilities along the way. So this is all trenchless technology.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. McNulty. Appreciate it.
Got it.
Anybody else from the public have a comment?
Mr. Chair, I have just one, Mark Zemanian, 5 Low Avenue, through you to Phil McNulty. Is this information that can be put into the GIS system that we have and maintain? So you can more easily get that information?
I don't see any reason why not. Yeah. Yep.
Is that something in the forecast, maybe to Mark Tisdale, where he's more in charge of the GIS?
Yeah, I'd love to have that in the GIS. I will work with, I think I'll work with Phil on that, and I think Phil would love to have that in the GIS too. So
it's just, I've heard a lot of talk tonight about, you know, how far are we, how many, what's the percentage, things like that. I certainly think it would be helpful to Phil to have that knowledge. As he gets closer to hitting 80–90% coverage in the town, and he's still, you know, losing 1 million gallons, that's clearly, it means that it isn't necessarily the pipes that's the problem. We have an additional issue somewhere that maybe he can focus that attention on. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Great suggestion.
Mr. Chairman, I have one follow-up question that was
Sure,
asked
go ahead.
by someone. So we don't know how many miles of sewer pipe have been relined? Is that what I understand? We have no idea?
Not off the top of my head, no. I mean, the information can be had.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, anybody else in the public? We good? All right. We're all done with Article 21, moving on. Let's do Article 22, Stormwater Program Permit Compliance. Mr. Tisdale.
good evening. This is our annual article for the stormwater compliance for the EPA MS4 permit. The new permit was issued in 2018. Has all new requirements. The permit before that was issued in 2003, I believe. So in 2018, they had all new requirements. There's 6 minimum control measures. We do pay a consultant to do this work. This is all new stuff. Our engineering department also does some of the, we coordinate the program. We do all the stormwater inspections as required per the program. We do all the stormwater reviews as required by the program, but we only have so many people, so we do need to hire a consultant to do the remaining work. I did give you the backup material that is interesting to me, but probably boring to most of you. What the consultant, the FY22 costs are. Generally, the last couple years, they're around $100,000. There's some examples of work being done this year is a new stormwater bylaw, mapping the remaining outfalls that we don't know where the pipes go to, which is a requirement of the permit. The Ponce River Watershed also helped us out with some public outreach and education at the schools. They do some mailings for the some flyers to do with dog waste and things of that nature. So the Ponce River Watershed helps us out, and our consultant helps us out completing the tasks that are required for the permit. Like I said, the article's $100,000. It'll probably be close to that every year. It will vary a little bit. I do have a 5-year plan that I believe I submitted as backup material. It fluctuates a little bit every year, but generally it's around that number.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Argavon, your committee have any questions?
Does anyone from IGR have questions in regards to this article? It would appear not.
Okay. Anybody from FinCom have questions about the stormwater program?
Chairman, I have a question about this, unless anyone else does.
Well, you can go first. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If this is required by state and the EPA, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. If this is required by the state and EPA, why is this an article and not in the budget?
Well, up until 2000, that is a great question. Up until 2018, it was manageable through our budget, and it was pretty much catch-up work because we knew the new permit was coming, but we didn't know when, and that was for a few years. So we were able, I think we had a $40,000 line item in our budget for a few years, and then the new permit came out, and we asked for a 5-year budget plan from our consultants, and it's alarming. Every town is struggling with this. It's around $100,000 per year because of the new permit requirements. And it's a very good question. I think this year we go with the $100,000 article. I think it goes down to roughly $80,000 in a couple of years for the next 3 years, but it's in that range. So it could certainly be rolled into the budget for next year if we had the support of this, this finance committee. I do think your concept is right on point. Something that you come to town meeting for an article every year probably should be in your budget.
Well, what I'm saying is if it's required by law, which is what I understand it is, that it wouldn't be an article because that would be optionally passed. It should be in the budget if it's required by law. So that's why I was a little confused by this. But that's what I think. It should be in the budget if it's required by law. But thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Lon.
Okay, anybody else? All right, hearing none. Mark, where do we stand on the 2 projects at the schools? The stormwater projects?
Yeah, good question. Right now, the Dawes School is under construction. We awarded that contract. I believe there's maybe a month or 2 left in that project. It's going very well. It could be less than that, to be honest with you. So that project will be closed out, say 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months from now. The other project that you talk about, the Gibbons.
The Gibbons, yeah.
That's
that one done?
That's completely done. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
anybody else?
I had a question before. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
If it's all right. Yeah, I think this question's for you. Actually, I think this question's for you. This article and the last one show it's almost like boilerplate language for either doing transfer of cash or borrowing. At what point do we decide whether it's going to be cash or borrowing? Because that obviously affects the article, right? At what point does that get work?
We have to do it. So it's a question of, do we have any money? Is it going to be a borrowing or do we have the cash? That's what it comes down to.
You want to wait?
We have to do it. We can't say we're not doing it.
No, I know that. I'm asking, do we determine this at the end of the month after everything's said and done to see where we are? Is that when we discuss that?
Yeah, well, we would have done it earlier, but we got to wait for Article 20. I don't know which one the capital is, 27 maybe. All the other stuff is in there. And then we get the picture of how much stuff we're looking for. And then we have to define the funding source.
You're waiting for the full picture, and then we look at it one by one like that.
Yeah, and then how much do we have, and what can we do, and what's prudent. Like we want to borrow for $5,000. That'd be kind of silly. So things like that we have to determine a threshold.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on stormwater?
Yeah, Eddie.
Yep, go ahead, Scott.
Through you to Mark. Mark, that project on the Dawes School, is that an outfall pipe that's buried that looks like a dam?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with what pipe you're talking about. Is it a new pipe that got installed?
It looks like it comes out of an existing drainage manhole in the road and goes over towards the electric easement, and on the slope there's riprap.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a new pipe. Yep.
That's beautiful. Now, what happens to that water? It just disperses, or I don't see anything to hold the water in.
Oh no, there's definitely something to hold the water in over there. They just built a pretty large berm along the electric easement, so we actually are forming a infiltration basin.
All right.
For that project, so it's under construction. You may have been there when the pipe was installed. Was not active probably at that time, but there's a berm there now that actually forms a natural infiltration basin. It doesn't look like a normal infiltration basin because you actually see a lot of the trees were kept. We're working with the natural topography.
Yeah,
So,
I see that. I see the riprap in place to hold the fill that was hauled across the street at one time and just dumped in there.
yeah,
And,
they tried to pretty that up a little bit, but you
well,
know.
I thought it was maybe trying to hope it from infiltrating and pulling that side down on, because it's just been dumped in there.
No, that slope over there had a lot of big stones and boulders for years. Probably before I was born, but
I'm sure of that.
to make it look a little bit prettier, we actually put some riprap on that slope. That the riprap doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than for looks.
I just didn't know if it was towed in on the bottom so that it wouldn't, if that basin filled up. I was just looking at that as a matter of fact, the other day, I happened to.
Yeah. There's actually not a ton of water that actually will go into that basin. That project's design, there's a big main pipe in the Daw Drive. I'm probably using the wrong name of the drive there, but that main road.
Right.
And we're putting a diverter weir in for just the 1 inch storm. So we're treating that first flush of water with the infiltration basin and cleaning it. So it doesn't take all the water from the road and the school site, just a bit of it. And actually, this is see, I kind of like stormwater, so I get into this stuff, but but I'm going to lead into and help fill out a little bit with a previous question about recharging the aquifer. A lot of the old school ways of drainage was you just pipe the drainage off and they go into the nearest river or stream and then it just goes away. It doesn't recharge your aquifer. Every stormwater project now is required to hold the water, store it, and infiltrate it into the ground to recharge the aquifer, which also helps with our town wells. Sorry, I know I sidetracked on that a little bit, but
no, that's fine. I was just interested in that design.
Yeah.
I'm all set, Eddie. Go ahead.
Okay. Anybody else on the committee have a question? All right. Hearing none. I'll ask the public. Anybody in the public have any questions on stormwater permit? Okay. I guess there's no questions on that. So that one's done. All right. Let's go on to one last easy ones. Article 10, we'll do the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund. Somebody have that article? I think it's what, 393 or 398? Who's gonna take this one? Mary Jane, can you do this one?
Sure, what would you like to know?
Just tell us the amount of the appropriation and the source of the funds, and I guess that's about it. That's all it is.
Sure, this is for the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund.
Right, Article 10.
Article 10, and I believe the current budget is $388,000.
Okay. And the fees come from charges by the cable companies and whatnot. They just fund it in here for part of SMAC's funding. And that's about all this is, money in and then allocated out to SMAC on their budget.
Yes, and we pay them out monthly.
Okay. All right. Agabon, anybody have any questions on the Cable Enterprise Fund on your committee?
Any members of IGR have questions? Anyone? I'll take, Janice, go ahead.
Hi, I'm gonna ask a similar question that was asked earlier. This seems to be something that we do every year. Is this something that, rather than being an article, should be in the budget?
It is. If you look in the budget on page 65, you'll see the 388 in there.
Okay.
This has to be an enterprise fund by state law. It was passed a couple of years ago. It used to be just an in and out on a line item, but now you have to have an enterprise fund to funnel the money.
Right. But it is in the budget Ed, on page 65. We already went through that when we were going through the budget. We referenced over to this, but it's just one of those funny things that you see in both places.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone
Anybody?
else from IGR? No? Okay.
All set? Okay.
All set.
Anybody in FinCom have a question on this? We've already been through this, but anybody got any
Mr.
questions?
Chairman.
Yep, go ahead.
Do we know how much we've collected in the fees on this? I know we went over this last year and we ended up dropping the amount because the fees weren't going to add up to the amount on there. So I'd like to clarify if we have any idea of the collection of fees thus far on this.
Mary Jane, can you answer that one?
So I would have to run the report for that. I can certainly get that for you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I believe they're gonna be closed because it's roughly the same amount of appropriations last year, so.
Yeah, but last year we went over this and Mr. Rowe had a number, and based on that number, I don't remember what it was, but.
Yeah.
You're right, Quan. I think it started like at 395 or something. It had to be dropped down.
Something like that, yeah. The number we got from Mr. Rowe let us know where we could adjust this number to. That's why I was asking this question, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mary Jane, maybe you can find out from Bill where that stands, the total revenue.
Yeah, it's a very relevant question because there's a lot of cord cutters and the cable companies depend on subscribers to build up what that becomes. So it's a valid question because where this goes and what the internet with the streaming services and all that, there's got to be a point in time where critical mass will happen and in which something has to change. So that's why it's a good question.
Okay. All right, anybody else? All right, hearing none. Anybody from the public have a question on the Cable Public Access Fund? All right, hearing none. That one is done. We'll move on to Article 3, accept contract funds for town roads. Basically, who wants to take this one? Just, if we get any federal money, Chapter 90 money, we just take it.
We
You know,
get
this-
notice. We get notice
Go ahead.
every year. We get notice every year of what we get for Chapter 90. It's been relatively stable. All indications are it will continue to be stable this year. And this is just an article to accept money, which is always a good thing.
And that's basically it. Okay.
IGR,
Anybody
any
have
questions?
Who's that?
I said IGR, any questions?
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
Okay. Everybody good?
Oh, I think we're good, yeah.
Okay. Anybody on FinCom have any questions? All right, we're good. Anybody from the public have any questions on Article 3, accepting federal money for roads and state? All right, hearing none. We'll go on to Article 4. Apply for and accept federal or state funding of any kind. We take all dollars. Okay, anything else on this, Robin? You want to say anything?
Nope, except we are always happy to receive. On a separate note, on federal funding, just as an aside, we've actually already received, as of I think yesterday or the day before, 92,000 of the additional $180,000 of COVID money that was coming in for the school department. So, in fact, today Sue Herman emailed me that the school department, Kathy Piatelli, has that $92,000 or $93,000 in her possession now. So it just dawned on me, we're talking about accepting federal funds or any money. We are here and we are accepting.
Okay. Agabon, any questions from your committee?
Any questions from IGR? I do not see any. Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. Anybody from FinCom on Article 4?
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Before you get to FinCom, through you to Dr. Grimm, do we also have funds coming from the new federal program? She's shaking her head. Do you have any information?
Yes, so the American Recovery, American Rescue Act that just passed, we received notice from Congressman Lynch's office that Stoughton would be getting approximately $2.85 million. Sue Herman is reviewing this, the parameters on it. It actually can be used for a broad range of things, including offsetting revenue losses as a result of COVID, which is very interesting for us. It possibly can be used for some capital work. So I will be putting this on a select board agenda probably within the next week or two. This has all come down in the past week to start to look at a direction. This is a little different from CARES money that sort of came under the purview of the administrative side and the management side of things for us, where there were very clear things to spend it on. This is sort of a more philosophic expenditure type of question because it broadens out from just day-to-day operational COVID-related costs. So I will be bringing this to the select board, but it's $2.85 million that will go into the beginning of the next fiscal year. And this is going to become important for you, particularly for FinCom as the month moves on, because it may be that there's going to have to be sort of a philosophic discussion of, do we use this to deal with the offsetting revenues? Do we use this to look at capital projects that may have shifted or changed because of COVID? People work in different environments. We act differently. We live differently right now. So there's actually a very broad range of uses, but not just day-to-day COVID operational purposes. So this is something that on the town side, I just can't say to my staff, you know, where do we want to spend this? This has sort of broader implications. So over the next week, you probably we'll see something coming in front of the board, and once I get it in front of the board, I will bring it to this group, or the board will bring it to this group, to FinCom.
Okay. That answer your question?
Yes,
I think
Okay.
Susan is also on if you have specific detailed questions, but right now I think she's just beginning to wrap her arms around it. There's also major Norfolk County money that's going to Norfolk County in addition to this. We, as a group of town managers, the Norfolk County town managers, are deciding how we want to handle ensuring that the county keeps all of us sort of in mind here, and how that money gets distributed countywide. We're trying to look at how much say we actually have on this. But I can tell you, a few of us loudmouth, as you all know, town managers, sometimes my big mouth benefits all of you, and that we'll be fighting hard to make sure that some of that comes to the towns as well.
It's a really interesting kind of set of circumstances that happened in Massachusetts, where if you're a city or a town and you're not a member of a county, that what would go to the county is actually going direct to the cities and towns, just like this first tranche of American Rescue Funds. When I first looked at this, I said, this is appalling because it seems unfair. But there's towns in Western Mass that will end up with far more money than Stoughton because there's no county government out there. So Robin's group has their hands full on this. I don't know how it will get resolved.
Yes, so it sounded like the OPEB was one of the categories that they mentioned in that CARES Act.
I haven't read anything about OPEB. It specifically says you cannot use it for pension.
Oh, it did.
It specifically says you cannot use it to lower any taxes. Then
So
the U.S. once American Rescue was signed by the president, it was up to the U.S. Treasury to give the guidelines. To my knowledge, those guidelines have not really been fleshed out in any detail that's going to be good for Robin and the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, okay, either something changed or I have dyslexia and I read it backwards. Okay.
Yeah, it could be another program. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, the ink's barely dry.
Maybe we should secede from Norfolk County, get the money, and then join again.
You know, Scott, it would be very tempting to secede for a whole lot of reasons. I can tell you that much.
Plus, they had to pass it before we could read it. You know.
Stoughton's a rebellious town. We can lead a secession.
Okay,
I want to take a quick chance to thank Susan, by the way. Susan is not only our internal auditor, but last year, 2 years ago, was promoted to financial analyst for exactly. I did not know COVID was coming, but if I could not have had anybody better to be handling this. She works tirelessly reading all of these federal nuances and details and things that most of us, I can't read for more than 5 minutes and not get a migraine. So a special thank you to Susan on this, because it does take a very special brain to work through federal regulations.
Yeah, sure does.
Thank you, Susan.
Reading the tax code. All right. Anybody from the public have any questions on, what was that one? Article 4, federal funding. All right, hearing none, we are done with Article 4. We will move on to, let's take Article 29, 30, and 31 kind of together. Deposit to stabilization, deposit to the building fund, deposit to fire apparatus. These are articles we put in every year. We have 3 stabilization funds that we can fund if we have any money to put in them. We usually don't know that till the end of the whole budget process to see what might be available. The building fund is kind of designed for fixing up the buildings or building projects. Fire apparatus fund is for equipment for the fire department. And the general stabilization is kind of a general for emergency type stuff. Mary Jane, do you happen to have the balances on those accounts?
Yes, I do. Would you like them in a certain order?
Let's do stabilization first.
Currently in the stabilization, we have $5,066,321.97.
Okay, building fund?
Building stabilization, $1,539,086.07.
And fire apparatus?
Fire is $359,963.10.
Okay. And for the members of Intergovernmental, if we have any money left, the FinCom decides on how we're going to allocate it to these 3 funds at the end of our deliberations. Currently, right now, all our free cash is used up for the budget, the allocated percentage. So we don't have any extra money yet. We're scraping around trying to make some things work, but as of tonight, we haven't determined any funding for these buckets yet. So that's about all those articles are about. So I'll ask Argavan if anybody has any questions from her committee on those 3 funds.
Or anyone from IGR have questions on 29, 30, or 31? IGR, let's see. No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, anybody from FinCom have any questions on
I have something to say.
stabilization? Yep, good, Scott.
Just something quick that we took a lot of money out of the main stabilization account, and I think if there's anything left, even if it's $25, it should go into that account. I don't think we should be spreading it around. I think we should focus on the main account and try to put some money back in that. And I think the other ones are fine.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, Dave has a question, and then I had something to say too, but David's had his hand up, so.
Yeah,
Okay, Dave.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. I just wanted to see if somebody on the Public Safety Subcommittee knows a ballpark idea of what it costs for a new engine, because I think the fire apparatus fund would possibly could be left alone because it might already have enough to buy another engine. So I'm thinking that that could be one that we ignore. But I want to make sure there's enough money in there if we did need another engine or something. So does anybody have a ballpark idea?
Well, per our discussion from last year, the ambulance is up next. I mean, it's in the 350 range, give or take. That was what this money was going to be used for. The engines are like 600,000 plus. Yeah. They're all
They
over.
have more money yet. I think the last engine was over 700.
So
engines are about 7 to 750, sometimes 8. Ladders go up to about $1 million.
Over $1 million, yeah.
If I could just respond to Mr. Carrara's point. Some of that money that came out of stabilization was something that we had talked about mid-year when you all were sort of deciding if we should take it out of the budget that I have now, that I've held on to money, or if you're going to take it from stabilization. And you decided at that point to take it from stabilization in case I ran into really hard times with the budget, which I appreciate. I do think in looking at things, and I'm looking, I look routinely sort of at the year-to-date, But in those areas where I was able to hold that money, I believe that that money is still pretty much intact. So at least I'm very hopeful that a few $100,000 can come back. And I mean, just on a personal note, I agree with Mr. Carr. If that's where it got taken from to offset the revenue issues, it probably should go back. I mean, I think it's a good message to rating agencies that you did exactly what you're supposed to do with stabilization money. You stabilize during a crisis, and that through prudent budgeting, we were able to help start to reimburse that. So I know there are other stabilization accounts that are important, but that main one is what we dipped into. It's exactly why you have a rainy day fund. And we hit a rainy day, and then when it's not rainy, you go back and replenish. So I am hopeful that I will have that turn back money that, you know, you were kind enough to sort of leave in my trust. But we have continued to have only emergency spending as best. I say emergency needed spending, not that there's really a lot of discretionary, but we can hold back on some things, you know, office supplies, travel, all of those things that we don't do. So that's just kind of an update on where we're at. I do think we'll still have that money. I just, on a personal level, just think budget-wise, logically, in speaking with our finance analysts, that is a good, healthy use of that money.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on FinCom?
Dave had a question.
Dave, just had a question.
I didn't know. I
No,
thought
I'd already, did I leave my hand up?
No, I just saw you put your hand up physically, your real hand.
No, sorry. I sometimes wave, you know.
He was saying
All right.
hi to you, Vaughn.
Okay, Vaughn, I guess you're up.
What, did I have a question? Is that what you're asking?
Did you have one? Yeah.
No, I was just
Yep,
going
yeah,
to agree
one.
with the previous speaker that it's a good idea to put that money back into the general stabilization fund. That wasn't a question, that was a statement, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I have a question, Ed. John,
Yeah,
intervened.
John has a question.
Yeah, I haven't spoken for a couple of articles yet, so. The building stabilization was a little over $1.5 million. And I'm just trying to think, did we take money out of there for something? Because I thought that was higher at one point.
Yes, we did.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
we
trying
did
to
$1 million
remember.
bucks.
Huh?
We did $1 million last year, I think, cash to fix up a bunch of stuff, bunch of buildings.
Out of the bill, all right, yeah, and I was just trying to pinpoint what we had taken it out for. I just couldn't recall off the top of my head.
There was a bunch of projects we did for cash.
I thought we had, I just wanted to make sure, you know, as you get older, Ed, sometimes your memory you're not sure of, but, you know, us senior citizens, you know, and I got a shot, so I might be losing some of the brain cells.
Yeah. That number one and number two.
No, number 2's coming up in April.
All right, good.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, anybody else on FinCom?
Well, I just want to see if the number that we're going to be able to put back is going to be revealed to us in time for us to start voting at the end of the month. I assume it will, but, you know.
We'll see
we're
where the
gonna
road
have it
goes.
During our FinCom sessions, I guess. Or is
Yeah,
it coming
they'll
after?
come as it comes along, right. Okay, anybody from the public have any questions on the stabilization funds? Articles 30, 31, and 32. I mean, 29, 30, and 31. All right, hearing none. We are done with those. And that brings us to the last one. Article 32, reappropriate funds from the fiscal 2021 health appropriation. I will leave this one to Sue. Could you just explain what we're trying to do here, what an OPEB trust is, so the other committee intergovernmental has an idea of what we're talking about and where the funding money would come from? Is Sue here? Hello, Sue? No, I'm not here. What? No?
Oh, here, I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yep. An OPEB trust is designed to cover the claims and the premiums of retirees over a long period of time. It's money that a town puts away on a current basis that pays the claims and or the premiums sometime out in the future. It's recommended by any reputable outside accounting firm. It's represented by the accounting organizations in the United States. Many cities and towns are underfunded in this area, but it's something that should be done on a regular basis. It's also something, more importantly, that rating agencies look at because of the issues I just mentioned. They look at it and ask us about it every time we're having a rating review. Last year, we were lucky enough to take some of the current healthcare appropriation and actually sock it away for future claims. This year, we will be able to do that again. I have a preliminary figure of what is available in the 2021 health appropriation. It's sizable. The Finance Committee may decide to put some in OPEB to possibly pay down the snow overdraft that's on the 2022 recap. But there should be between $200,000 and $250,000 available in the health appropriation in 21. That comes about for two reasons. Enrollment increases never really came about. We're probably level with last year's. In the prior 2 to 3 years, we had significant enrollment increases, which means that the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen have to do intertransfers towards the end of the year. The other reason it comes about is because the retiree plan was changed to a lower premium, all-inclusive, better plan in mid-year, and the 50% that the town puts in for that is obviously a lesser number. So if you were asking, not that you have, I would not put all of it into OPEB because I don't know if you can repeat that on an annual basis going forward. And I might keep some of the powder dry to pay down the snow overdraft.
Interesting. Okay. You got anything you want to add, Robin, about this, or?
Yeah, just on the issue of enrollments, we've talked about, and it's something I know your group has talked about, I feel strongly about, are offering potential buybacks or incentives for people not to take our health care. When you do take our health care, you pay 30% of the cost. So we do have a decent co-share on the benefit. But the question of, do we offer people the opportunity to buy out? So we give them a couple $1,000s not to take our health care. For a family plan, that actually is a good investment for us, because if we get a family of 4, that hits our enrollments pretty good. And depending on the status and where they are in their lives, people can be expensive. And it sounds awful to say because we hate to look at numbers. We weren't talking about health, but we have no choice. That's our job. The danger of that is that you might lose the younger, sort of healthier people, or the people who are helping to subsidize those who use more of the cost, because we are self-insured. So it's our own pot of money. So I do just want to put it on the FinCom's radar that we are still talking about it. It's just a matter of looking at the numbers and what the risk is on who we lose, and are they the people that we would rather not have on our plan versus the people we want on our plan. So it actually benefits you to have more healthy people than to get rid of the healthy people and end up with just unhealthy people, because frankly, the healthy people fund the unhealthy, or the 2-person household funds the 5-person family who pays the same amount, because we don't have like a +1 plan. So if if I have a family of 2, I pay a full family plan, that does offset the family of 4 or 5. So I just want to point out that we are looking at that. That enrollments question is such a huge one for us. And again, we're looking at schools and municipal, so it's a lot of people. I do want to thank Deanna, Susan, and a whole team who work on healthcare aggressively. And we were able to have a decent amount to turn back, partially because of the enrollment predictions, but possibly because of the management of this.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that? Robin, can you offer that? Let's just say you have a new hire, and you do offer some type of incentive as far as that's concerned. Can you do that year to year? So if the cost burden becomes too much, you can address it, or is that once you sign up for that, you're pretty much signed into it?
I'd have to think that through. I mean, I don't think there's any reason that if somebody opted out when they got hired and then came back a year later and said, gee, I'd like to be on, we certainly could put them on.
Or the other way.
Well, the other way is hard. Yeah, I mean, I could bring them on it and then offer them the option to get out.
Okay.
Yeah, I could offer it to everybody. In fact, I could offer it today to current employees, and probably would.
Okay.
So it really is something to think about. Who do we think would hop off?
Right.
The other thing that's important, and I'm trying to pull it together when I have a few minutes, I want to do just an everyday person tutorial for the staff on what it means to be self-insured. And I don't want a healthcare expert putting it together, because the whole point is it's supposed to be an everyday, like, normal person tutorial. I don't understand it when healthcare consultants talk about it. I have to figure it out myself. We have people who do not realize that every time they go to a doctor, that's coming out of our pot of money, their pot of money too, the employee's pot of money. That's why the telemedicine incentives are so important. That's why looking at conglomerates that eliminate the middleman. We're trying to there was a group in Rhode Island we were working with, and I know they're beginning to work with Massachusetts communities, all gastroenterologists, no middleman. So for self-insured, we set up our own billing plan with that gastroenterologist. We're not paying a middleman any fee. So we don't really know what the doctor, we don't really know what the doctors necessarily is getting paid. We then would negotiate our own rate. And if an employee chose to go directly to them, we could eliminate their pay, for example. So we would incentivize them to go the cheaper route. But anyway, just some things that we're looking at. But I just want to do a little tutorial for people. You know, if you get a set of x-rays done at the ER, get them in your portal on your computer. So when you go to your doctor, you don't have to get another set done and cost another $500. And that's what we're trying to educate people on with self-insurance. And I think people are beginning to learn and understand. They understand why telemedicine saves us money. COVID has really helped get the telemedicine concept out. That's a silver lining of COVID. But anyway, those are just some things we're trying to do with healthcare, and we have benefited by going to the one plan. The one carrier plan has helped us a lot. So just some things that are going on with healthcare in town right now.
Okay. All right, I'll go on. Do any members have any questions?
Does anyone from IGR have questions?
Oh, ma'am.
No, I think we are good.
Okay. Anybody on FinCom have any questions on this one?
Mr. Granzavino has questions,
Yeah.
and John Rock has questions, or the John Rock.
Oh, D. John Rock can go first.
That's why they call me the. Dr. Grimm, first of all, I think you and your team have done an excellent job in trying to rein in healthcare costs. You know, you've taken some really positive steps, and, you know, we're reaping some of the benefits. So, in terms of incentive for someone to go on a spouse's healthcare plan or something like that, so you would just offer that to people who are already on the town's healthcare plan, is that correct?
Or new hires, yeah. So I could have some
new hire. Well,
okay.
Yeah, so a new hire, you wouldn't know what their plans are, right? I mean, you would just automatically offer them some money, or what?
Yeah, you would ask them. You would say, "Do you want?" You know, when I get hired, they'll say, "Well, do you want to sign up for health care? Is it a family plan or a single plan?" So we would ask the person the same question, and we would say, "Well, if you don't want to sign up for the health care, you know, we incentivize you not to." So you would have to offer that to a new hire as well, because we're not offering them health care. We're still offering them the option of health care.
Right.
So, but if you don't take it, you know, here's $2,500 if it's a single plan. Here's $5,000 if it's a family plan. I'm just throwing a number out there. But when you consider these plans are, you know, $20,000 to $25,000 plans, the employee is paying 30%. So they may find it actually financially beneficial not to take our plan if the spouse has a good plan, or not to take two plans. Like a lot of times the spouse might have a plan and they use ours as a secondary insured for either way. This may incentivize them not to do that. And then we're not backfilling what someone else's plan doesn't cover that way.
Would there be a condition that they have to remain off our plan for a year or a couple of years or something like that?
Yeah, I'd have to put at least a 1-year condition unless they lost their other health care. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'd have to offset some financial for that.
And so I know I brought this up before, but you know, having you know, like a modest deductible might also kind of educate people to the cost of going for unnecessary visits. But I like your idea of the tutorial, because yeah, people just, realize, like, you go to the emergency ward unnecessarily, that racks up a huge cost. You know, you go for an emergency, you know, otherwise you make an appointment with your physician. So I think that's a good idea. So thanks a lot, Dr. Grimm.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, appreciate it. And we continue to try to make those deductibles different enough, and that's hard. You know, it's a lot more. We want to make it where it's a lot more to go to an emergency room than it is urgent care. That might be a $500 visit versus a $3,500 visit. You know, versus your telemedicine call, which is $0. So yeah, it's all about education for people. People just, you know, it's not the old days where it's Blue Cross. You know, everybody said, "I'll use my Blue Cross" when we were young, and it just went to this mystery place, and it was all Blue Cross's risk, not ours. But self-insured, it's our risk. So yeah, we'll keep doing the educational component of it, and again, I just think it has to be like people like me talking to people like me who are not healthcare experts by any stretch, because when people start speaking in the industry speak, we all kind of get like Charlie Brown teacher on it. I just, you know, I blur out. So we want to make it kind of normal. No offense to the healthcare industry people who speak the speak. God bless them. I just don't understand it.
Okay, Mr. Anzavino, do you have a question?
I have two, as a matter of fact.
Have at it.
Unfortunately, and I don't know if I'll get an answer to this, because one of the questions I had is, what is the incentive to opt out? And I know Dr. Grimm threw out a couple numbers and said just to throw numbers out, but that was one of my questions. What is the incentive to opt out?
I would have to literally sit and talk with Sue and analyze, like get her to do a run for me on who she think what the numbers would be based on the demographic. We'd have to actually work with the healthcare consultant on that. If you look at what the 30% pay is into the plan, let's say for sake of argument, it's a $25,000 plan. We pay 70% of that. So we're paying about what, $17,000 of a family plan. If we pay them $5,000 to opt out, and that's, again, that's a $17,000 plan, but that's an administrative cost type setup. If they have two major medical issues or one major family medical issue, they've gone through more than that.
All right, so you don't have just a flat fee, we'll give you this if you opt out.
That's what it would be. I just don't know what that right sweet spot number is that it benefits us enough to make it.
You're talking a percentage of what the cost of the plan may be, as opposed to, we'll give you X amount of dollars if you opt out of our medical plan.
No, it would be exactly that. I'm just using the percentage to talk about when we figure out what that flat number should be. We have to look at what it is it's costing us on our appropriation, what it is it probably is likely to cost us on the healthcare trust if they get very sick, and how much it's worth it to us to put them out. How much cash do we have to spend to put them out? So it's a flat rate. It just has to be reviewed in comparison.
I mean, I've seen in the private sector where they used to offer a flat rate. It was like $1,000 if you opted out. You know, and granted, this was over the years. And eventually the company just said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Not only that, and here comes my second part of the question. Not only did they get rid of the incentive to opt out, if you brought your spouse on and your spouse had the opportunity where they work to get insurance, you were penalized so much a month if you wanted to bring them onto yours. Do we do that in town here?
No, we do not penalize if your spouse has opportunity to get insurance. So that we have not looked at. Right now we're just looking at the option of the flat rate to opt out. I don't believe that there's any penalty if another family member has insurance.
I just wanted to ask, because I know the last company I was with, when they ever threw that one out there, that went over like a lead balloon. People almost flipped on that. And I'll tell you, they were charging $100 a month if you wanted to bring a spouse on who had it didn't matter how good or bad the plan was. You know, most couples, if they're working, you pick the best plan to go into. And they just out of the blue said, yeah, it's going to be $100 a month if you bring a spouse on that has access to medical insurance. So I didn't know if the town had actually taken that approach.
I might have a little bit of a labor uprising on that one.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, the people weren't too happy when they heard it. You know, I was fortunate it didn't affect me in that regard. But like I said, I was just curious because those are the two things that kind of work hand in hand in how they were trying to control the cost. And they, you know, like I said, they got rid of the opt-out, and then they said, yeah, not only are we not going to let you opt out or pay you to opt out, we're going to charge you if you bring someone in. So
will
I'm
tell
just curious where we stood, you know?
I will tell you what we did do is we did an audit to be sure that only people who are eligible to be on our healthcare are, you know, divorce situations, older kids who aged out.
Yeah,
You know, you find that if somebody gets divorced, you're supposed, you know, the divorce decree says that you have to carry them until they get remarried. They
Right.
get remarried and they're still on our plan. Susan D, our crew did a thorough audit on that as well relatively recently. And let me tell you, there was some resistance from some people to give us back the information.
Well, I know in the private sector, they were going through that with the audits, and it was very simple that they would request the information and so forth. And if, you know, if they found that you weren't being above board about it, you know, that's fraud, and that could cost you your job, you know, so.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, at least they're looking at that, because I think the first year they did it, they offered amnesty for anybody who checked their records just to see, and they actually did. It was an amnesty program, and you wouldn't believe the thousands of people that got taken off of the insurance. But all right, thank you, Dr. Grimm. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all set for me.
Okay.
And you know, every time I've had my hand up with someone else, you call on them first. And I've made note of that. So just letting you know.
Write that down. Okay. Anybody else on the committee on this one? All right. Sue, you going to have a number for us by the end of March on what we might be able to put in the OPEB trust fund?
My microphone doesn't always unmute, but it could be the person that's operating it. So let's leave it at that. I believe there'll be $200,000 to $250,000 excess in this year's health appropriation.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. We'll
Yes,
firm it
I
up.
don't. I went into my thinking on, you know, what did we put in last year into OPEB?
I think it was 250.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to put the whole thing in. It's a different budget picture. So you might want to use some of it to take snow off the recap.
We'll discuss it in a couple of weeks, but try see if you can firm it up a little bit more by then, okay? All right. Anybody from the public have any questions on Article 32, reappropriate funds from the fiscal health line? Okay, hearing none. We are done with that. That means we are done with intergovernmental. We have covered all of your assigned articles. So unless anyone in your committee has anything else they want to ask or discuss, I suggest you have a motion to close your public hearing, Argavon.
Does anyone from IGR have anything they'd like to say or discuss? No? Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to March 22nd?
Motion.
And can someone second the motion?
Second.
Correct. Thank you. All right, let's go through a quick. Dennis Schneider?
Yes.
Right, Argavon, yes. Tim Howe? Tim Howe?
Agavon, just come back to him.
Okay, Jeff Blacker?
Yes.
And I know that Tim Howe did not do it. Frank Lyons?
Yep.
Okay, and I believe Lindsay logged off already.
That's okay. Just keep. You
Okay.
got enough. So just.
That's
go.
it. You got enough.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll see you on the 22nd.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
you.
Oh, you need to do a motion to adjourn.
Oh, can I have a motion to adjourn? Sorry.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Thank
All
you.
right, just take another vote.
Yes.
Everyone, yes, everyone. Right.
Everybody,
Tim Howe,
yes.
Jeff Blacker.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounded like all yeses to me.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Agavon.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Frank.
And that concludes our joint session. All right, getting late. Time to finish this up. All right. We are going to go over these little bit of a spreadsheet I sent out to everybody today on some ideas on how to close the deficit. Someone have something to say? No? Okay.
You
Did
sent out
everybody
an
get
email
it?
today?
Huh?
You sent out a spreadsheet today?
Yeah, Vaughn sent it out to everybody.
It came out as a PDF, John. It's a spreadsheet that's, it's a format of a spreadsheet on a PDF.
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
you,
it's
anybody
labeled.
put it up?
Yeah,
Just
I
for-
can do that. If I get
Okay.
rights to share, I can do that.
You're all set, Dave. Share
Come
away.
on, Vaughn.
So this is it. I think, hang on, I think I can make this a little better. Hold on. Let me know if you need me to zoom in more. How does that look?
Yeah, we think we read that all right.
That's 75%. You want to get, you want
That's
to
very good.
That's good. That's good enough right now. Okay. Last week, we voted to take out the school article for now, put it on the side, which made our deficit, I believe, 524 and change. This is an attempt to close that gap. And on my first column, these are the accounts we would use, more or less, this is to cover the snow budget, most of it. And this is the places they would come from. I will confirm with Bill that these funds will be available as of May 1st when we vote to transfer the monies. But this is the general outline of how we're going to do that. So on the left side, you got the 525, the total. Those are where they come from, the vets, services, police, patrolman, firefighter line, dispatch, code enforcement officer, unfilled position, crossing guard, we use them all year. Uninsured claims, we'll take one from that, and the fuel reserve. I believe we got to add another 25. I think the snow's 4.25 and not 4, but on the right side, you got other options that we can get money from if we need it, other accounts. I don't know if the board voted last night. Mr. Rose said he might present to the board. We can use leftover monies from articles to fund debt service up to 50,000. Did that happen, Robin?
What was that? Did fund debt service, but what was that?
Did Mr. O present to the board last night his article to, we can transfer leftover monies from articles to debt service?
I don't recall that. I don't recall that last night. I'm drawing a blank. I don't believe that was.
The answer is no.
No.
He did not present last night.
No, I didn't. Okay, you had me for a second thinking I missed something. Just a comment though on some of these. When I mentioned earlier about having several $100,000 to give back, some of that money, just so you're aware, comes from some of these line items as well. I still will have more, even if you take these. I have some library wages, for example.
Yeah.
Reserve for
That's on
negotiations.
the right
but-
side. There's other options available.
Right, but some of that money, like the code enforcement office, that we weren't able to fill it. We have tried, but we haven't been able to find the right person. Some of that was some of the money that in the 250,000 I had aside was some of the money I had anticipated.
Yeah, and it's worked out well because now we can fix the deficit.
Well, that's what we're hoping.
So this is the idea on this is where it's all going to come from to fix that part of the budget. And so you can see we got some other options on the right. If we want to go deeper in the next couple of weeks and scrape up even more for stabilization, we can do that. My first thought was the FinCom reserve is still available, about 350s in there. We can put that into the main stabilization, or we can scrape it even harder. We can maybe put 500 in if you guys want to scrape hard. So we have a few options. There's also one other option I forgot to put on here was I asked the board to have a water commissioner hearing to possibly increase the water sewer rates, which would help the negative on the sewer budget right now. But they have not done that. I asked them to do it hopefully before the end of March, but we'll see where that goes. If not, they do it after, and if they vote an increase, it could just be a surplus budget item, and Mr. Rowe might be able to use that for his recap sheet in November, potentially, if that event happens. And that's just kind of the general outline of how we're going to attack the budget. deficit. That would leave the 171 on the side for articles, for cash. And if you want to scrape this a little harder, maybe we can scrape.
With the door locks and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
177 and change.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea here is to trying not to use one-time monies for the budget. That's one of our guiding principles. We're going to try to stick to it if at all possible. And assuming the snowstorm on Friday is just a little thing and not a big thing, we shouldn't have too much more cost from that, hopefully.
Mr. Chairman.
That's sort of where we're at. Yep.
Thank you for coming up with this. I think maybe Robin was going to speak, and I was just going to actually ask if her budget team has had a chance to review these and if she has any concerns with any of these items, either on the left-hand column or the right-hand column. I know she mentioned that she was thinking of some of these, but I just wondering what she thinks.
So I'll answer your question first, Ben, and then I'll just make my follow-up comment. I have not had a chance to review these numbers specifically. I do know that most of these line items were areas where we had been looking anyway in that initial mid-year review, where I thought I might have a little money. I just need to look at things like that large number of police patrolmen and make sure that I don't have somebody coming out of an academy right now or ready to come out, and make sure those numbers are accurate. The areas that we're talking about, though, I am relatively comfortable. I know on the right-hand column, I do have a little bit probably saved in that clerk procurement position because we had an internal move and we're still trying to fill that position. So there's a gap of an unfilled position that did not have any kind of a buyout associated with it. Part-time wages for library, we can knock off a little bit. There's still a little bit left over in that reserve for negotiation. The additional police that we did not hire, that we knew we were leaving vacant, there'd be some money there too. So I would want to go through this, but at this point right now, none of this is making me panic. What I do want to say, Mr. Trumpio, I agree fully, and I think we've worked really hard not to use one-time fills and reducing the dependence on free cash. And I feel really good that we have not put structural holes into these budgets the past few, at least I could speak for in the years that I've been here, and FinCom has been committed to that. The one thing that I think makes me a little less leery about using something like the school 177 this year is that the problem we have with our budget next year isn't that we may not have the money, it's that we can't budget for it because we can only base our revenues on our actuals from 20. We know that 20's revenues are artificially low because of COVID. We probably won't be as high as we were in 19. We'll probably be somewhere in the middle. So the likelihood is that we will have better revenues in 21, 22 than what we're actually budgeting for. We just can't count it. So normally when I would say, oh my gosh, we're going to be off for 4 or 5 years, we can't use a one-time bridge like that 177. And I'd be real nervous doing that then. This year, I'm a little less nervous because the reality is we have falsely low revenues, which is not a bad thing. We'll benefit on the other end next year. But this isn't the worst case scenario to use a one-time fill. If you're going to use them, this would be when it's literally a bridge to make up for what we can't fiscally do because DOR says we can't, and that's okay because we'll end up better off on the other end. But I just think if we could, at any point, if we need to use that 177, we can worry about reducing our free cash dependence. We've been good about it. We're still reducing per FinCom's directive, even with COVID. So I just wanted to point that out. This is a falsely low revenue projection. As the vaccine gets out and people start getting out, we're already seeing, people beginning to explode with wanting to go out, vacation, all of those things.
Yeah, well, that's a next year thing. I mean, we got to deal with this year. You got the Fed bucks coming at 2.8 million, whatever. That's out there too. However, that's going to be doled out. But so there are other options available for the future considerations. Mm-hmm. All right, so this is kind of the general outline of how we will attack solving the deficit problem, assuming it doesn't get any worse from snow or some unknown event.
Mr. Andrew has his hand up, and I think you should give him this question because you've ignored him before.
Can't see his hand, huh?
Yeah, but I'm on open mic now, so if he didn't call on me, I would just butt in. Just a reminder, I'm looking at the list you had up here, and back in February, we had got something from Dr. Grimm that she thought that we could be able to cut the CMAS by 38,000, and although she had 10,000 from the hazardous waste, and you have.
Well, that's already in.
Yeah, but,
Some of that's already in.
well, was the 38 already cut from CMAS?
I think so. It was on that other list we had to get to the 5, wherever we are, the 520.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's already been
It's
done.
already on, it's already in.
Okay.
When Bill and I made that last pass through in the budget team, we did a last pass through on where we could do with our revenues and expenditures. That I believe was included in that bunch of numbers.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I knew we had got some information, so I just wanted to make sure we had accounted for that. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the general idea here of how we're gonna try to close the gap on the budget issue. And we like to save that money from the school article, because that's cash, it's a free cash dollars. Because we need money for articles. We have nothing right now to cover articles, so
Mr. Chairman,
that is kind of the intent there. Yep.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? I
Certainly.
know in Article 24, there was a $66,000 article, I think, for lakes management.
Yes.
Is it possible to use the money or a part of that money that's in the Conservation Commission revolving fund for that? Because according to the revolving funds bylaws, I'm thinking that that might qualify. It's, talks about.
We'd have to ask Bill that question.
Yeah. I
Not
have
sure.
to say, we really should, this really shouldn't be an article. This should be a budget line item. I agree with you, Mr. Inokian, in some way or another, whether it's through conservation revolving or a budget line item, at some point, we need to find that $60,000, because it's just, that kind of routine expenditure isn't an article.
It's in the revolving fund right now. Conservation Commission has $66,857.47. It's in the revolving fund right now. And in the bylaws, they mentioned that, that money's to be used for elimination of aquatic and non-aquatic invasive vegetative species that interfere in the enjoyment and use of the land and replanting of fields or conservation lands, a bunch of other stuff there too. But I was just wondering if this could be used for that, because the money's sitting in that fund. And
Yeah, but that's used to pay the other half of the salary, so you'd have to check to make sure there's enough for that.
the only expenditures we've removed from there thus far was $7,100, and then since June 30th, 2020 was $5,100. So, I mean, during that time frame, we've only taken about a little over $12,000 out. We have $66,000 in there. So I don't know what we're doing with. You're saying we're taking half the pay out of there. I don't know. What are we doing with half the pay?
That's the Board of Health you take.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a different fund.
Oh, it's a board, different budget, okay.
JC's not paid out of that.
So
Well,
back
I
to
don't
my
know.
question, is it possible to use that money that's in that revolving fund to pay Article 24, which is $66,000, or a substantial portion of that article? Because we
I
talked
suppose
about
it's
how we need
possible.
cash to pay for that, so cash is there.
Oh, check with the conservation,
I'd pay the whole
agent.
thing out of it.
That's what I'm
See
thinking.
what, check with conservation agent, see what he thinks, what else his rest of his expenses are for this year that's coming out of there, and can we take some of it? Maybe half,
Well,
maybe 30.
And yeah, I think we need to, obviously the commission would have to be involved in that. And then the question is, how does that raise fund, where is that raising funds? And is it going to be able to be replenished if we, again, we're talking about one-time fills. If we pay it out of that this year, what are we going to pay it out of next year? Or are we going to then go to an article again? So if those funds replenish, and we can do that every year, or even 30,000 of it out of there every year, that's great.
Well,
but I
the
don't want-
spending limit on the revolving fund is 50,000, so you wouldn't be able to do the whole thing no matter what.
Right.
Because their limit is 50, so they accrue money in it, but they can only spend 50 based on the authorization they get.
So spend.
But it's certainly something to look at, because if they have the money and that article has to be paid cash, we can't borrow, so, you gotta find the money somewhere, and if they have it in conservation and it's in the write-up for what they can use that money for, then it's certainly a viable option on where some of that money could come from.
John, what if we took half out of the 66 at Concom and took the rest from Eddie's 177 cash?
Yeah, and then at least like $140 or something, to spend on other things that you could, some of the smaller things that you want to pay cash and not be borrowing for the long term or short term even. Just something to keep in mind that there is a source there that, if they want to do I'm all in favor of keeping the lakes and ponds, cleaned out. But,
Eutrophic free.
well, the thing is, it is part of the write-up on what they can use that fund for, so.
Well, Robin, can you check with those guys and see
Yeah.
if we can
You know,
maybe get 30 grand out of them or something?
When we're into a pinch, you gotta chip in where you can, and I understand that the revenues that we're basing this on are small, but that's what we have to work with, so, you know.
And I have a real problem with revolving funds, not revolving, that we are not supposed to sit on taxpayer money. Stabilization.
We'll help it revolve.
Yeah, I have a real problem with that.
And enterprise funds are supposed to be self-sufficient, but we know where that goes, so.
Well, we're working toward that, especially on the one that all of you get annoyed about. We're working on it. We're close.
I wasn't talking about that one in particular.
Oh, okay. We got that tomorrow night anyway.
Thank you, Mr.
Can you make a note?
Committee. Thank you very much.
Can you make a note for next year's budget about the stormwater that goes in the engineering budget as a line item? At least start this. So the 100,000 for stormwater.
I think the way Mr. Enochian presented that is even a better way of looking at it. In any state or federal mandate should be in the budget, not an article. What do you do if town meeting turns the article down?
Then you get a fine from EPA.
Well, no, but the thing is, if you put it in the budget, you force it in the budget because it's got to be done.
Well, if you guys want to scrape a little out of here, maybe we can do that for this year. Put it in and scrape some out, and it'll at least work for this year. Anyways, that's a thought for next couple of weeks.
Just going forward, something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Let's get going. I hear John Rock getting tired.
All right, that's all I have about this. This was something we talked about last week. Here's some options to make the math work, and there's still some other options coming if the board votes on these other items. So
can you email me this? Can you email me this list and I'll send that out to my team tomorrow, and I'll take a glance at the budget again and come back tomorrow night if there are any real concerns about some of these and maybe other areas where I can offset it.
Fine, no problem.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that, Dr. Grimm, because we promised Dr. Marcus that we were going to take a look at the cash that would be needed on those small articles like the one Vaughn was mentioning, and then use whatever's remaining towards the budget as a last resort. So it's important that we understand what we can use of what Eddie put together, so that we could plan for that.
Thank you. Yep. We'll get you what we can tomorrow night.
All right, and that is all that I have for tonight. Anybody got anything else they want to, as far as budget's concerned, anything about the budget?
No, I would like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing to March 18th at 7:15 to be conducted under the Zoom virtual meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Ed votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Chet?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
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 Donnie and Zavino?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
Yes.
Still awake? Still awake? All right. Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Enoch?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. All right, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ed votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
And we can stop screen sharing now.
Chet?
Oh,
Yes.
Dave?
good. Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
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 Donnie and Zavino?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
I would like to thank Scott for being so considerate of me. I know he's always looking out for my welfare. And the answer would be yes.
I worry about you, John.
Oh, thank you, Scott.
All right, Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Enoch?
Yes.
All right, and as far as well-being, Chet, how you feeling?
Yeah. A lot better.
You're much
Lot
better.
better.
Good. Glad to hear it.
And I'd like to let the
Hey,
committee know.
Chet, quick question for you. I sent you a message the other day. Did you get it? I didn't know if I had the right number.
All right, we
I
are
don't think so,
closed.
John.
See everybody tomorrow night at 7:15.
Thanks for the
Good night.
warning.
Good night, all.